Just let me know if you need me to do anything with the link.
Okay, we're live already, so but there's no one watching
What's
yet,
up?
so
Oh, so I can pull my piece out?
yeah, you can.
Why would you do that, dude? Yeah. That's the way to start the show.
It's a good start. It's a good start.
Oh, so I can share the show
Okay,
out, yeah.
yeah, I'll make a tweet and we can just start talking. So I'll just make a tweet, a little tweet, and also on Blue Sky.
I love to use the Pantoja.
Yeah, my boy, man.
The goat. The goat. Oops. He's still here. Another year. He's still champion.
Yeah, they tried really hard to get rid of him. They couldn't.
Yep, they brought in literally the biggest flyweights literally on the roster, right? Like, I don't think there's bigger flyweights than Steve Erceg and Kaya Sakura, Fenyo, right?
They broke the fucking biggest guys that they could, man.
Yeah, young guys, big guys. Pantoja was like, yeah, cool, nice.
So cool, just passed my record. Thank you.
I'll take that. Yeah, he's just.
Okay, I think that's. I share already. Oh no, I'll share on Blue Sky too, and we can begin
Okay.
talking about stuff.
I don't think I have. I don't think I have Blue Sky on my. I'll share it through here first, and I can grab it on my phone and do it through there. Okay, so we're live, so that means I should stop saying the racist stuff in Spanish that I may or may not have been saying before.
Yeah, we need to save that one for the middle of the podcast.
Oh my god.
Anyway, okay, we'll pretend that we're live, even though we have been live for a while. But I'm Fenny from the Fight Sky. From the Fight Sky? What the fuck is that? I'm Fenny from the Fight Side, and I'm here with my man Dan, Tom, Daniel, Thomas. How you doing, man?
Good, man. I'm just sharing this to get some friends in, and I'm looking forward, man. It's not just a recap of the year, but like a recap in a familiar, safe space. For those unaware, me and Fenyo were doing recaps for the majority of this year and even last year, which surprised me how fast time flies. So, kind of feels appropriate that we do a recap of this year together, right?
Yeah, it's just fitting, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
thank you for having me, though. Thank you for having me.
no, no,
Always
no.
happy to be.
If I want to do this with anyone, it's with you, man. So I'll check. I'll need to consult some Wikipedia here to remember some of the stuff that happened this year. But yeah, how? Let me check with the chat. We have created username. That's a very creative username. I drove the Silent Hill 2 remake to see this. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And we
Ooh,
have Ghost. We have Ghost
nice.
in the house. So we have the
Oh
boys
my
are
gosh.
assembling
Yes.
just like in the good old days, right?
Yep, that's what's up. I also have this. I can't even remember why, Fenyo, but probably all the end of the year stuff or whatever. Or you know what it was? I think it was for my under the radar fighter of the year that I got assigned for Junkie. So I just started going through like event by event, right, just to get a refresher. And I still have that tab open. Like I'm just like a billion tabs on my. I don't know how you guys rock your things. Sorry, dog's chewing on a bone. But yeah, I got my tabs open, and it it was a nice recap because a lot of the times I'm sure we'll talk about it, Fenyo, but let's just say, and we'll give our opinions of the year, right? But let's just say you have one memory of the year, or one generalization, and then you actually go back and look event by event, let's say, and oftentimes you come out with a different, kind of like when we do top five shows or something, right? You think you have a top five, and then when you actually go back and through, it's a little
Yeah,
different, right?
yeah,
I don't know about you, but like maybe this gives away how I felt, about this year in MMA. But I felt like my memory was pretty spot the f on as far as like uh, the events and like from pay per views and even in between shows and kind of how they rated.
yeah, yeah. I felt like usually our conclusions to each like event were pretty spot on. So I
Yeah,
feel I feel pretty good about our work this year.
yeah.
Going back to the chat, we have James Kendrick here, we have Rio Sosen, we have Jim Carasu, we have all the boys assembling, man. Let's go! Sammy Arnett
Yeah.
asked, reunion? Yeah, we're reunited this night. And hopefully more often too,
Hey.
yeah? So why don't we get into some events? Of course, the year began with an Apex event, right? There's no other way to
Yeah.
begin the year.
Always. Always.
We have Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker 2, a fight that Ankalaev should have not taken on the first place. He got a super comical knockout. One of the funniest of the year. I feel like that one is flying under the radar. And the comical value is just that Johnny Walker always gets knocked out in the most funny ways, man.
Yeah.
Um,
It's out of nowhere. It felt like it always feels like it's out of nowhere.
Yeah. So Ankalaev taking that fight, he had to win another fight, and we still don't know if he's going to fight for the title because the UFC hates him for some reason. In other like notable fights, Jan Silva began the year for the fighting nerds, and it was a huge year for the fighting nerds. That one, we saw Jim Miller winning a fight against Mowgli Benitez, and that's where when we were all on the train of, oh please Jim Miller, get an easy fight for UFC 300,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
we'll get into that.
I think if memory serves, though, we'll get to it. But Jim starts and finishes the year good at least. But yeah, there is a massive like police brutality style beating in
Yeah.
the middle there. It was really bad.
Mario Bautista had a win over Ricky Simon, who we downgraded to Ricky Simon.
Yeah, that's right.
This
I
year,
can't
this
even,
year, Ricky Simon stopped being Ricky Simon and he started being Ricky Simon.
that's true. That's true. That being said, for since there's so many of the PYM boys in the chat, I just got to real quick hijack and do the Simon Bato for the culture there. Sorry, my voice, by the way, guys, is still fucked up. So apologies, but I'll keep my impressions limited as possible.
We'll try to keep
He's-
it limited.
He's downgraded.
Just
He's
for
downgraded.
just for health reasons. Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Go says should have been Jim Miller versus Matt Brown at UFC 300. That should have been great, man. But yeah, then after that we had the fierce pay-per-view of the year. We have Strickland versus Duplessis, which for a lot of people was very good apparently. For some people that have never seen MMA in their lives before, because it was a pretty mid fight in my honest opinion. If anything, the more exciting title fight, even though it was also not a great one, but it was like, for me at least, it was Rocky Pennington winning the title against Mayra Bueno Silva. They were trying to set up Mike Malott to have this coming out party. Was this in Canada? Yeah, this was in Canada. So, yeah, he failed. He got absolutely Neil Magny on that third round.
Yeah.
Movsar Ibloyev had a good fight with Arnold Allen, and it seems like Ibloyev is not getting the title shot either. So the UFC being like pretty sketchy with some of these Russian guys. So yeah, after that we'll just pass like very very fast through some of these. We have Dolitze versus Imavov, that it was like not very noteworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Hermanson versus.
And
Oh yeah, go on.
I was gonna say just like I was gonna say, hold your breath, guys. Another middleweight main event at the Apex.
Of course, when
Half the time it's middleweight main event, man. Half the time. It
but
feels like
this one hurt because the UFC talking about the coming out parties for Mike Malott. This was supposed to be like Pfeiffer ticket to the top 10, and
yeah.
Hermanson put it on the guy. Great performance by Jack here.
He's the upset. He's the upset machine. He's like the guy when you're playing the video game where he figures out like, ooh, if I just keep going this direction on the D-pad and hitting the Y button, I can kind of like cheese my way to a victory. And you're just like, oh, well, I see what you're doing. Like, oh, I don't know if that translates. Maybe that's very 1990s gaming, but like, yeah, just like that's Jack Hermanson, and I like Jack Hermanson, but he's the guy. He'll find something and he'll just be like, oh, I'm gonna.
But it was a good performance, and I didn't expect it to go like that, like with Hermanson like moving on the outside, the kind of outboxing here, Pfeiffer. So that was a cool performance, to be honest. One of the underrated performance of the year, I would say. Then we had UFC 298, huge event for us the nerds because it had like the most important title right now in MMA on the line. Volkanovski, who a lot of us were still rating as pound for pound number one at the moment. He faced against Ilya Topuria, and Topuria with the knockout on the second round. Maybe I didn't super agree with the game plan for Volkanovski, but I still thought he was looking good. You can consider though this was not that far removed from Volkanovski getting kicked in the head by Islam Makhachev, so maybe not the best decision on that front. But yeah, what did you think about this one?
Well, this was weird because I only watched this back in pieces whenever they came. Any of the fighters who fought on this card, fought in the remainder of this year.
Yeah.
Because for those who remember, I was actually flying to Thailand while this fight card was going on.
Oh, okay.
So one of the only fights I remember seeing was in transit to Bangtan Muay Thai was probably Whitaker Costa. I'm trying to watch on my phone. I'm messing around. I think I was tweeting out for like, what's the best VPNs? Because I'm a boomer. I'm old. I don't know how to do stuff. And anyways, Volkanovski trains obviously at Bangtan Muay Thai. He trains a lot of different gyms, but that's one of his his Thailand gym.
Yeah.
So everyone's big Volkanovski down there. They use him for like the gear and all the models and stuff. And so when I got there, everybody was like in the cafe area, kind of just in the gym, just gathered around because the pay-per-views are going down like Sunday morning, basically Thailand time. And I lost my passport, but then refound it, and it was this whole big ordeal.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I still feel like such an idiot. Like I was going through that, but I'm like, oh, I forgot. In my defense, it wasn't me that lost it. It was actually at the gym where you check in at the gym. They also have places to stay, and they actually forgot to give me my passport back, and I thought I like left it at the airport or some shit, right? And in our defense, I think everybody, the people who forgot to give it to me back, myself, I think we were all distracted because I remember I didn't watch the fight, but you just heard a whole collective. Oh
man!
I got knocked out, and I was like, oh, and immediately I'm like, oh, I know who just won. Sorry, that's all. Selfish reflection, but that's my only recollection of the card, Fenyo.
Volkanovski also used to spend time at Tiger Muay Thai, right?
Yeah, well, the Hickman brothers were, I believe, at Tiger Muay Thai before they started Bang Tao.
Oh, so he followed them.
Yeah, so a lot of guys followed, or some still stayed. Like obviously, like Peter Yan still stays and trains at Tiger. I'm guessing Sarukian does too, from the footage I've seen. Like
okay.
a lot of those Russians will, and there's plenty of Russians too. I got beat up by a decent amount. There's plenty of Russians too at Bang Tao, but as far as like the notable ones that like we or the audience would know, like yeah, like that's kind of how it's split and the reasons why you'll see. And I don't think it's like uber competitive. Like I'll see the Hickman brothers even like post friendly stuff on the AKA Thailands.
Okay.
And they're all in Phuket. It's like a little miniature Hawaii. It's like a little island there. So I mean, everybody seems friendly and whatnot, but yeah, that's kind of the separations, and obviously that's Mike Swick for AKA Thailand.
Yeah, yeah. Quick Swick, man. He got into like
Yeah,
he became like thick Swick when he retired, man. He got fucking huge.
well he beat cancer, and I was like, dude, the steroids help beat cancer? Holy shit! Because it was right around the time like. Usually people go like Tom Cruise Philadelphia. He's like I think I could beat this shit, and he just like I think I beat it, and he just started getting bigger. I'm like, oh shit, he just conquered, you know. So good on him, man. Good on him, by the way. It looks like he's doing well.
Yeah, that event had quite a few notable fights. So
Did
in that event we had Robert Whittaker against Paulo Costa, as you mentioned. Whittaker looked very good in that fight. Ian Gary had an awful, disgusting fight with Jeff Neal. Mirav beat Cejudo very impressively, and that was the fight that got him the title shot, right?
Yep.
Fluffy got to shine into a pay per view main card. That was cool to see, and he put on a show, man. The way he was taunting at the end, like Kopilov, and then he was like sticking his tongue out where he had the rear naked choke. It was awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Fluffy's awesome, man.
yeah, man. Amanda Lemos for Mackenzie Dern. So that was a fight that had stakes, and that was like an insane fight. Like it was so silly. uh, we had
Low key Asian prospects.
yeah, Rinja Nakamura had a fight in that event, and like Nakamura is one of like the biggest prospects in the UFC right now. So, and then we had a UFC fight night, Moreno versus Royval 2. Hot take: I thought this fight was awful. I hated this fight. It was.
Bad. It
I
was
love the
bad.
flyweight division, but this fight I thought both guys looked so bad here.
So I didn't watch this card, but live. But watching it back, this was another classic. Like I know everybody likes to pick on Herb Dean, but as far as Herb Dean telling fighters to work, remember like the best round and the best exchange is like round 5. I think it's like the 5th round of that fight. And like Herb, they go to this defense for like literally like a second, and Herb's like, work, I'm gonna work to improve. Like I don't know if you remember that. Like if I'm remembering correctly, maybe the chat will correct me. But it's literally like the most exciting part, right? Because I think Royval or something at that point is like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm down, or Moreno or someone. They know that they need the 5th round, so they actually went out and tried to fight for it. And yeah, that was just classic.
Yeah, man. Ortega got to look like old but good in his fight against Jair Rodriguez in that event.
Hey,
Uh,
sorry, real quick. That I watched that fight, but I can't remember offhand. It came up where whoever was organizing for like excuse me, submission of the year. Um, I felt like the choices weren't that great, but maybe it just wasn't a great year. You know, I'm not shitting on whoever chose it. But amongst like the 5 or 6 choices for submissions this year, I remember Brian Ortega's over Yair being one of them, and I couldn't remember like was it something that was crazy good or
I mean, the arm triangle was slick because he finished without like hoping to side control, and he went like when with 2 elbows to the ground. So it was like technically wise, it was like very solid arm triangle.
sure.
So I get it from that perspective. If you are like a BJJ nerd, that was a very good one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like Rodriguez was being like super overwhelmed from top position by Ortega, and you could tell that Ortega was the superior grappler. So I don't
Yeah.
rate those like that highly. I feel.
Yeah, like Ortega knew. I remember because didn't he he baited the bridge? He kind of bridged to explode out, and that's how he really locks in the
Yeah,
head and arm.
yeah.
They really just kind of again like a black belt taking advantage of a blue belt's franticness. It's kind of what it looked like.
We have we saw in action one of the favorite that Tom likes to say their names here because we have Daniel Selhuva against Francisco Prado. Other than that, like another thing that I wanted to highlight from this one is like Howdy Barcelos having a good old Brazilian performance against Christian Quinones in this one. That was neat, man.
That was, yeah, that was for sure. That's a good one.
We have Rosenstruck versus Gassiev. That was a
Oh,
fucking
jeez.
mess, right?
Yeah, this was another one where like, I was worried about missing the previous two, but I was flying back during Rosenstruck and Gaziev. I'm like, yeah, I am not missing anything with my guy Rosenstruck swinging on Shabbos. You know?
Oh, and that was rough to watch. And that event, it's weird because it had some cool stuff. Like it had that Steve Erceg knockout against Matt Chanel. We watched like that one was crazy, and that got him
Yeah.
the title shot, right? Mokai
Yep.
versus Alex
And then,
Perez was kind of controversial. That one.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It was. It came down to like it was one of those things where it's just like, if you know what you're watching, Perez won the fight, but the fact that he didn't do enough, it made it so you couldn't get too mad at it. You know?
It's one of those classic one that you as an MMA fighter you should know that judges you are making it too sketchy for the judges to have an excuse to not give the fight to you. So you should work harder in those situations, even though you shouldn't. But you know that it is how it is. So
Yeah, like even like Ursig fought and got his title shot on this card, and the round five against Pantoja. Even though Pantoja arguably won at that point, he's smart because what does he do at the last 10 seconds? Even though he's defending the Ursig single, he's smashing the head down. Right,
yeah,
he's pounding, he's really emphasizing it, and that's all Alex Perez really needed it. And the
yeah,
only
he
thing
just
else I'll
needed a
say,
bit of that. Yeah,
and the only thing else I'll say of this card is you had Bekzat Almakin with a very Armin Sarukian Makachev performance where he doesn't win, but like does an impressive effort and a loss, if I remember correctly, against Umar Nurmagomedov. Wasn't that like you're like
he,
why is Umar fighting this guy? But he actually
yeah,
like
he had like a
put up a
one.
good fight.
He had like one good round, I think. But then
Yeah, it wasn't
Umar
close,
started
but it was
going
like
to town. Yeah.
but it was like fun wrestling. It was like really like fun. If I remember, it was like fun scrambles back and forth, like a very similar
Yeah.
style. Where you're like, oh, this is nice. We don't really get this too much in UFC.
Let's catch up a little bit with the chat.
Yeah,
So James Kendrick says Hermanson did look scared against a big hitter in Pfeiffer, so that was good. Yeah, it was. He was looking a bit nervous at first, but then he was like getting into his zone, like shoulder rolling and stuff. Like, Rio Sosen says, "I want to know who wins X Chill of the year." There's a lot of weirdos there defending the UFC, man. Lies Infested Pubes, that's a great name, man. Hello everyone, he says. Ghost says, I thought Volk had the right ideas. I know someone I respect said Volk looks old and slow. I don't think so. I mean, it's clear that Volkanovski probably not in his prime anymore, but I thought he looked pretty good. He probably beats everyone else that night. Synchro wins. He says that's how I reacted at Volk versus Topuria. About your reaction of the gym.
yeah.
Rain Lamina. Thick Swick Mike Swick is quick. Tom Cruise would have been a weird choice in Philadelphia. Fluffy versus Hamsat.
Tom Cruise. Oh my gosh. Tom Cruise. Why is it Tom Cruise? Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks. Tom
Fluffy
Cruise would be
versus
the most excited AIDS guy ever. He's like energy completely off. I'm sorry. It made no sense.
James Kendrick. Herb Dean telling Merab to work against O'Malley against the fence. That was kind of weird, yeah. Herb Dean was weird in that night, and we'll get into that, yeah.
Yeah, that was that great call, James. Yeah.
Oh, we'll get into Whiteman versus Silva, man. We'll get into that one. Isel Hoover, the guy that goes to the body shots late. I mean, he's the guy that forgets about his own jab early. Yeah, that's I think the most like classic thing about Selhuba.
Zelhuba? Yeah, he kind of since he got in the UFC feels like kind of space cases a bit early, to find himself. Maybe gives away a round or so.
So yeah, let's. So after that we had UFC 299. Sean O'Malley versus Shito Vera. I was very excited for this one, and Chito decided to not show up at all. Some people are saying go, but I saw a lot of like narratives about like, oh, there's levels to this shit, but every time that Chito Vera tried something, it worked. He was like just not doing anything. Like you cannot tell me this was not a bad performance. And not to take anything away from O'Malley in this one, because I thought he did a lot with the blank canvas that Chito was that night. So it's still props to O'Malley, because a lot of fighters do a lot less against a performance like this, I feel. That the co-main event for that pay-per-view had like one of the best moments of the year for me. I went nuts about Dustin Poirier knocking out Benoit Saint-Denis. I wish I was doing like the fight companions, because I went insane at that shit. My girlfriend says that I was levitating when I woke her up. So
That's hilarious.
now, Michael Page annoying the shit out of Kevin Holland was great, because Kevin Holland has made a career out of annoying people, and seeing him get a taste of his own medicine was amazing, man.
Yeah, that was good.
Man, this pay-per-view, just watching at first glance, one of the best main cards of the whole year, man. Jack Della versus Gilbert Burns, banger of a fight, man. Insane clutch. Man, that finish was so clutch, man.
That was,
because he was like almost losing that fight, man.
Obviously, I'm a big Jack Della fan, and I like Gilbert too. But I do like Gilbert even more now. I've been writing over at Homo Fight. I've been recapping their podcast with him and Moicano. They're fucking hilarious, man. Those two guys. And Gilbert low key is also like more funnier than you think too, because he's just always he's always like calling out like, and he'll do it like, I'm not sharing anything crazy, like he'll do it on the show too, but he's just like, even when they're waiting for him, like this fucking guy always.
Yeah, like, he does that face all the time with Moicano.
And Moicano always like shows up late, like a sitcom, like Kramer and Seinfeld, like, hey guys, it's like fucking, it's so classic. I'm like, this is great. Like I genuinely, like it's genuinely not a pain in the ass to listen to when I have to like go back and recap, which I haven't had to do that kind of work for a minute. But I was like, well, this is like a very entertaining job to do that for. That I can't complain, because they're like genuinely hilarious. Those guys. Sorry.
Yeah, no, they're fun, man. And the opener of this maker was Piotr Jan against Song Yadong. Another great fight, man, and a great performance, especially like a comeback performance, because you can tell that on the first round, like Piotr Jan was still dealing with some like confidence issues. And you can see him like working through that. It was like very, very inspiring performance, I felt. It's very cool stuff, man. They're asking if you are like behind the scenes in the Show Me the Money podcast.
No, I just they'll give me a link to watch live, or like the like unedited version before they edited it and stuff, just so I can get ahead on the recap or whatever. So you really just get to see them, and I can just say that it's very, very funny guys, man. Very, very, very hilarious.
After that, we had we were back at the Apex, obviously, with a heavyweight main event, because when you get tired of the middleweight main events, what do you get? You get a heavyweight main event, of course. It was Tuivasa against Taibura. And this event was rough, man. For me the highlight was Christian Rodriguez against Bulgarian. Because like it was like the UFC was kind of mad at Rodriguez, because you spoil Rosas. Okay, what if you tried that same shit a weight class up, and he still pulled it off, man. He still pulled it off.
That's hilarious. Yes.
So Zero, my dude, man. It's super sketchy split decision, by the way. I mean, I can understand. I mean, I would never score that for the Bulgarian, but with the way that judges score those fights. Vincent Prue had like an old guy performance there against Canadian Seshuko in that one.
Yep.
And not much else on that event. Then we had Hivas versus Namajunas up at 125. I never understood that. I don't know why Hivas is still taking fights at flyweight. I don't like her a lot there.
Yeah, same.
But this was that even though Rose swept on the judges' scorecards, I thought this one was super close. I thought like the last 2 rounds, he was starting to get the job done there, and we saw that
Yeah,
we
she
saw
was.
like Rose starting to fade, being a big narrative in a later fight. We saw Carl Williams beating Justin Tafa and getting to like a 10 fight win streak, and it didn't matter because the moment that guy lost, he got caught, man. The UFC hated Carl Williams' ass.
Yeah, yeah. Holy shit. Jesus Christ, man. That was bad. Yeah. Wow, that happened early in the year. I don't know why I thought that was later. Yeah.
We had two very good like performances like that could be contenders of performance of the year. We had Peyton Talbot against Cameron Simon. That was a star making performance, man. That was an ass beating. Like that was brutal.
Yeah.
And before that, we had the comeback of Yusuf Salal to the UFC, and he just beat the shit out of Billy
So
Quarantillo, man. It was so impressive.
yeah. It was one of those things where like you're not just saying it to be nice, like, oh, you don't want to take away from the winner. But it was genuinely one of those things where you had one guy that like you didn't realize it but was falling off a cliff in Quarantillo.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
at
for
the
sure.
same time, you had another guy who was genuinely hitting his upswing in Zalal, who was genuinely hitting a genuine upswing. So it just made that. It just. I remember I picked Quarantillo in that fight, and you know I might have played him, but not too crazy. But I just remember being really surprised though. It was like, wow, he submitted him. I was like, what the holy shit.
Yeah, it's still because Quarantillo, as you can tell by his last fight against Cub Johnson, like he's still very tough, right? And he's still a very good grappler, and like he had nothing for Salal, man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure we'll talk about that as we go, but there's been certain fighters like that where once their style falls apart, it feels like it really falls
Yeah,
apart. I know.
yeah. I mean, it was like kind of easy to see that Quarantillo was going to eventually like fall apart, but it wasn't clear that he was already there, right?
Yeah, Billy Quarantine. He wasn't the same. It
when he
wasn't the
was
same.
when he was Billy Quarantine, he was putting in a guys, man.
Oh yeah, he was round 3 quarantine every time, man. He was great.
uh,
I'm still a big fan of Billy Q, by the way. Shouts to Billy Q.
no,
Super, super
yeah,
nice.
yeah, he
Really.
seems like a cool dude, man.
Yeah.
Blanchfield versus Fiorot. We have after that.
Fucked up jersey card. Oh, what a fucked up card, huh?
Oh man, that this guy, this one is like contender for worst car of the year, man. I mean,
Yeah, and
no, there.
Gary Copeland. Sorry, Gary Glitter. Maybe he's got a little good Gary Glitter in him. Gary Copeland and Mini Brock just running a terror of all like the fights that he refed. He was so stoked to be back on camera. He's like, I've been out here since 2010. Uh, he looks like a younger version of Hank Hill's dad with the stubby legs. Like got shot off. I got these shot off in the war.
Oh man, we had.
Sorry.
So yeah, main event wasn't a great watch, but it was still a very impressive performance by Manon. So no complaints there. Buckley versus Luke was like a crime war, man. Luke looking.
That was yeah.
And just when Lucas started to like getting some stuff done, and Buckley was starting to look like shit, Lucas was shoots for like the worst takedown of all time, accepts bottom position of the sprawl and gets like ground and pound, and not even like knocked out, just like he stopped defending at all.
Yeah, I blame this performance venue for me looking so bad on a recent spinning back click at Junkie where they had me like on the panel, and they were like asking me my opinion or whatever. They're like, "So what do you think about Nick Diaz and Luque being pulled?" I'm like, "Thank goodness, I don't want to see that." And they're like, "Yeah, Nick Diaz is pretty old." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to see him fight." Or Luque. They're like, "What? Luque too?" I'm like, "Yeah, that guy shot." You're like, wait. They're like, "Why are you acting like Luque's washed, Dan?" And I'm like, "You guys didn't see
He's
like his last."
clearly washed.
Like he's got a brain bleed. Like he shouldn't be fighting. Like why why is it like only like Jack Slack, myself, a select handful of people mention that? Like for one, that's your argument right there, and for two, in this fight, right, it just looked like he just again, and you can't blame him if someone would have a brain bleed. Like anytime I would get hit, I would have a second guess.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a big Luke fan,
And
and
he
sure
looks
enough,
like it.
not
He looks like he's having second thoughts every time he gets hit. Like he's not the guy
yeah,
that wants to get into exchanges anymore.
yeah,
And the Temba Gorimbo finish that we'll get into that later. That should not
sure, yeah,
change your opinion about that. Like, of course he can still hit hard. Like
right.
that doesn't change the fact. Talking about guys that fall off a cliff, Kyle Nelson beat Bill Algeo, the other Billy that was like very similar to the other Billy, and he's also like kind of falling off a cliff, just like Billy Q, man.
Yep. Yes, that was apropos with Bill Algeo, right? Another Billy. You know, the East Coast water. You know, I don't know if you notice, Fenyo, in the United States on the East Coast end, they age a lot faster. I don't know what it is. Like they look like they're 40 when they're like 25. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Love to my East Coast, but I used to joke with that with the East Coast friends, and they would say it's the stress.
Yeah, man.
I don't know.
So it was that, and after that we had Allen versus Curtis too. This was a pretty good main event. Like that was alright. The tragic part was
heartbreaking.
Chris Curtis getting injured when he was like finally putting a very good performance over 5 rounds.
Yeah.
And I still think he won. Like, and I'm not saying that because Chris Curtis follows me on Twitter, just because Chris Curtis trains on your gym. I really thought he won that fight. And I think Brendan Allen is pretty good too. So, and I thought Brendan Allen fought a good fight, but I thought Chris Curtis still won this fight.
Yeah, so I recently did a worst robberies of 2024 article for Homa Fight. I don't think it's out yet, but so that was another reason why I went back through events, and this wasn't on there even a contender or anything. But to your point, Fenyo, of if anybody going, well, wait, why would Fenyo say that? It's because there were a handful of fights, and of course my ass was on the wrong end of them, but like there were a handful of fights where this one included where if you traditionally look at, since 2019 they changed the criteria more to impact, which everybody says damage, but it's impact, right? Since then there's been this argument, which I don't disagree with, right, where they're not crediting grappling as much, whether it's advances, submission catches, control times of dominant positions that are earned, mind you.
Yeah.
They're not being valued. They're arguably being undervalued, right? So the annoying part is that occasionally they will not just start valuing it, but they'll arguably overcorrect the steering wheel. And they'll overvalue it in certain positions. And this one was a close fight, so maybe not the best to go out on your shield with. But it was just weird to see, like, oh, they're actually valuing Brendan Allen's back position, even though he didn't land really any strikes from it because he was trying too hard to control. So the fact that Curtis was so hard to control, he really couldn't get any strikes or submission catches really off, right? So at a certain point, you're like, what are you grading, right? Kind of reminded me of Josh Thompson, Benson Henderson, where Josh Thompson, he got Jamie Lannister. He looks like Jamie Lannister, and he was Jamie Lannister in that fight. Remember, he injured. He only had like one hand. So, but even with one hand, he kept like out shooting Benson Henderson and getting to his back.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It still was. And that was old criteria, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
And even then, it still wasn't enough for him to get. He came up close with a split decision, right? So there's a in other words, I don't want me to speak for Fenyo, but there's a precedence to this, and this was one of the fights where they were like, if you actually went by the letter of the criteria and actually how the trends of how they've been judging fights, like, yeah, it wouldn't have been crazy for Chris Curtis to have gotten that win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not like a crazy robbery or anything, but
no,
but it was. Damon Jackson against Alexander Hernandez was like a bizarro fight because it was like Damon Jackson winning all the beginning of the fight and then Alexander Hernandez rallying at the end. It was like
so weird. Yeah, that was that was like if I looked at that fight, I don't think I bet it, but I'd be like, yeah, that's like maybe sprinkle on Damon Jackson round 3, you know?
Yeah.
If he doesn't get nuked early, like Hernandez is going to be tired. Like that's the basic dynamic, right? And you're right, it was flipped. It was like, what the
Shout out to Alex Morono versus Corey McGee having one of the worst fights of the year on that event. That was awful,
Terrible.
man. Yeah,
Oh,
it was so
jeez.
bad. Yeah. So yeah, after that one, we had the big one. We had UFC 300, and we gotta give it to the UFC. They stacked the shit out of this card. Uh, Huge fights all around. Main event was Alex Pereira miming the shit out of Jamal Hill and ruining his
Yes,
mental health for good. It
dude.
seems, man. Hill has been a number of a man after that fight, man.
Yeah, yeah. As a guy who's been through it, I'm not a big Jamal Hill fan, but like I want to give him a hug.
Yeah, yeah, same, man.
You know. Um, no, that was a good card. I always feel terrible because the PYM boys always remind me, but because it was so stacked and because it was really random, it's supposed to be in China. I always forget about the co-main event that was on that card, where Zhang Wei Li. I was like, I'm always like, wait, how did I? We'll get to it. How did I hit a certain fighter to win in round five and still lose the event? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I think I bet Fenyo that night. I think I bet Zhang Wei Li to win inside the distance, and she TKO'd
He had
and
like
choked out Yan Jonan.
it's so insane because like it's like obviously like it was Jiang Weili like dominating most of the fight, but still Yan
Right.
Xiaonan still having like huge moments. It was such a crazy
Yes.
ass fight, man.
Oh yeah, late. Did
And
she almost get like a knockdown or something in round four, like an overhand or something? I forget. Like
yeah,
she countered a kick.
and to
Yeah.
be honest, like Xiaonan, which I don't think she looked like she looked kind of sketchy. Like she showed up with a lot of heart, some good like she showed up her good qualities, but it was like still a sketchy game plan. But I feel like she got better after this because like she looked like she went to work hard after this fight in her last performance. She looked very good after this. Uh,
Yeah, we'll talk about that because I don't know if
yeah.
anybody enjoyed her next performance more than Fenyo, but we'll hold that for later.
Max Holloway with a very, very, very clear knockout of the year candidate, knocking out Justin Gagey
Yeah.
after pointing to the ground to the last 10 seconds of their 5-5 round. That was fucking insane, man. I just get excited just remember it. It's like such a surreal moment. You put that shit on a movie, and I'm like, nah, that's bullshit.
Yeah, you know me, I'm not about like the cheesy, like I not cheesy, but just like just because I'm very weird about what kind of attention on myself, despite the being in the job. But like I would totally do like your typical gambler video of my reaction if I had to do one of that because what better reaction could you get, right? If somebody last
Yeah,
minute, like,
man. Yeah, for sure.
because the closest I had to this was and I apologize to tie it to betting, but it does kind of give a different effect to it. Where I had when Yair Rodriguez fought Korean Zombie in Denver. Remember that fight? I had a bet that the fight wouldn't go the distance.
Oh my
And if you
god.
and if you remember, like it was like there was a lot of frustrating moments. Everybody thinks about the finish, right? Like Gaethje versus Holloway, it's on a lot of fight of the year ballots, and I'm like, I don't know about that. We'll talk about what our fight of the years are,
Yeah.
but like that's more of a knockout of the year. What Fenyo said, right? That's the page that I'm guessing we're both on Fenyo. But people forget that the crazy rear elbow that Yair hit Zombie with, like the fight actually wasn't that great. It was actually kind of frustrating if you know their styles,
Yeah.
where it was just like Zombie, every time you counter him in the boxing range, you're hitting him, man. Just stick with it. Stay on and pressure and counter.
It was
And
like Zombie was like clearly winning, but he was making it kind of sketchy in the eyes of the judges, in my opinion.
yeah, because there was bouts of inactivity. So like, and even like as a non-better, for example, if you listen to the broadcast, right? Even the commentary, where I'm like, okay, is it my bias, right? Is because I'm gambling that's affecting my view, and then even the commentary, they're like, no, don't slap hands again. No, just fight, guys. They were like getting frustrated. So
Yeah.
when it came to like the 10-second clack clack clack, I was like classic better, like walking away from the TV. I'm like, fuck this. This is not cashing. And I turn around and I just hear oh, and I turn around and Zombie's just laying there like like a Family Guy character, like with his arm behind his back. I'm like, what the happened? Like That was the closest, and then when back to the topic, Max versus Justin, right? Like I was just like I didn't miss it. I was watching it, but like to your point, Vino, like you didn't believe what you were seeing. You're like, no, no, no. So good, so
Yeah.
good, so
Uh,
good.
I mean, keeping with the UFC 300 because it was so big. Like Sarukian had an incredible performance. I mean, both him
Yes,
and
yes.
Charles Oliveira, they had a great fight, and of
The
course
only thing I
the
want to say that sorry, real quick. The only thing I want to say that fight real quick was that's another fight like the Alex Perez one, Mokaev, right? Where Charles Oliveira he ends the fight in the Anaconda, right? And he's like, I'm making the. It's like no, just get some elbows or sell him
yeah
some
yeah
damage.
he could
That
have
that, that
sold
might have still
around
could have
there.
stole
Yeah.
it. Yes, yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to
No,
add
no,
that
for
in.
sure. Of course, the UFC had to like fuck up the main card, putting Bo Nickel in there for some reason, and he looked awful. Like they put him twice in main cards in pay per views this year, and he looked like shit both times.
But Fenyo, I know we're here to enjoy 300. I just want to tell you that family is important, and keep hammering, Cameron Hayes. Sorry. His stupid fucking his buzzkill his party buzzkiller post fight interviews. You can't forget that.
Oh man, he's so boring. Jiri, the Jiri's like the anti-Bo Nickel, right? Like he just has like insane shit going on, and he was getting lit up. His leg was dead against Rakic, and then Rakic decided to like fall apart out of nowhere, and then Jiri just killed him. Sterling just laid on top of Gator, but it was very impressive to be honest. One of
There was a
the
power bomb, right?
Oh yeah, he had like a pile driver kind of stuff. One of the low points action wise, but still like a good performance. Kyla Harrison looked tremendous against Holly Holm, and now everyone loves her. Diego Lopez just beat the shit out of Sodiq Yusuf in like the second exchange of the fight. Moicano versus Turner was insane. Like Turner had him dead to rights, and then he like broke super bad. Jessica
Dude,
Andrade. No, go ahead. Go on.
I was gonna say Moicano, like there's been a couple fighters like this, but like there's some fighters where their chin they get like found out and they just get like rattled out like maybe like a James Vick or something, right? Is more of the common thing that happens. But then there's like the rare occasion like Moicano where they've always had this weakness, right? And you're like, okay, it's and Moicano's not young. You're like, this is gonna catch. And now all of a sudden his brand is like being the guy who can dog out the damage
Yeah,
and take over. It's crazy, right?
insane, man. Jessica Andrade and Marina Rodriguez had a kind of like frustrating fight in my opinion. I don't
Yeah,
think either
yeah.
girl fought like a super good fight. Uh, and then the sad hours for a lot of people, but Bobby Green beat the shit out of Jim Miller, man. He beat the shit out of that man.
It's like I don't have like a TV parallel or something like to compare it to, but it's like it's like if you have two favorite characters on a show
Yeah.
and they turn against each other and they have to fight. You're like, no, stop fighting. No, you're friends. Sorry,
It
that's how
was
I felt because I'm a big fan of both guys. So I was like, no.
Yeah, and if you discard like the attachment to Jim Miller, no, it was a good fight. Like even though it was one sided, like Jim Miller was
Yeah.
trying like very hard there. Like he pushed Bobby Green into beating the shit out of him. So
30-25. Holy crap. 30-25 was one of the cards. Sorry.
yeah, insane man. And the opener, Davison Figueredo against Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt having vertigo and not being able to deal with the grappling in that fight after looking pretty good early. So
Yeah.
yeah, 300 was great overall.
Yeah, they got lucky.
Then we
Fuck the
have.
media. The media said we couldn't do it.
Oh my god, yeah,
I
that was so
remember-
annoying, man.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
No, that was very necessary, man.
Next event was cool. The flyweights got the headline, and it was like they actually gave a decent matchup because sometimes they'll do the flyweights, Fenyo, right? And even
And
as
they put on the
hardcore,
worst fight of
oh,
all
no.
time, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Alex Perez versus Mateus Nicolau. Perez looking great here. And getting such a brutal knockout. And he really needed that because he was having such a bad streak of
Terrible
luck,
luck.
man. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I was very happy for him on that one.
Mhm.
Not a lot going on that event other than that. Like,
Oh, I must have blacked it out of my mind because it was so traumatic. But did Hani Yaya get killed on this event? Was
oh,
this the
big
last UFC
Victor
fight?
Victor Henry brutalized that guy.
Oh man! And again, they use a guy you like, so it like hurts extra. You're like, no,
Yeah.
don't make him make Victor Henry wear a mask so I don't have to know it's him.
And it's also like double brutal because like Victor Henry is the kind of guy that tortures you before finishing you.
Yeah, yeah, the brutal body shots. Like, no, no, he's already gonna gas Victor. You don't have to keep torturing his midsection like that. Stop.
So after that we have UFC 301, the first attempt by the UFC to get rid of Pantoja. uh,
Yeah,
we have take one in that one, and it was a very close fight. To be fair, like Erceg looked very good. It was like the doggedness, the experience of Pantoja carrying him to a victory. A close fight that you could argue that you could score either way. I personally score for Pantoja here, but yeah, I mean, very good fight, very good fight. One of the best of the year, I would say. I don't know if you're on that same boat.
it was really good. It was up there for me as well. And we won't spoil it, but I think it was also ended up being very stylistically instructive for his next matchup as well.
Yeah,
That he closed the year on. But yeah, it was a really good fight.
we have one of the feel good moments of the year with Jose Aldo, just like
Yeah,
putting on a masterclass against Jonathan Martinez. What else we had in that event?
Jonathan
Vito.
Martinez really. Sorry, he's another guy who kind of not like Bill Algeo or Quarantillo, but he's clearly going through some stuff too. Because he
Oh yeah,
sure we'll get to it later, but he's been going through some gym stuff and look bad in his next fight. But yeah, he got schooled here.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
One of the rare cases when I don't agree with leaving their gym.
Hmm.
I usually like a lot of the time I feel like it is a good thing for fighters to leave their gym. Maybe they need a new
Yeah.
look or some kind of stuff, but it seems like it is not working for Martinez here. Um, what else? We had Michel Pereira killing Ihor Potieria with a illegal
The
illegal
duelist.
knee to the head of a down opponent. Just because you do a backflip, you are allowed to kick a guy on the head when they're on the ground.
Poor
Classic,
Igor, man.
classic Michel Pereira moment there. We had Jonderson Brito shaking one of the kicks of Jack Shore and opening a huge gash in his shin. That was gruesome.
That was brutal.
An underrated one in this card was Drakkar Close versus Joaquim Silva. That was kind of a banker, man.
Well, what about Brenner and Oral Boy?
Oh man, yeah, that. Oh my, Brenner.
A crazy
That
fight.
was a crazy fight because Brenner was looking like shit from the very first second of the fight, and he still managed to put on a crazy fight. Man, that guy has so much heart.
Dude, Oral Boy's fights are like almost uncomfortable, aren't they? They're like the I don't know if you remember like that Million Dollar Baby Morgan Freeman's character. They're like, how did you
Oh
lose the
yeah,
vision? He's like, well, Andy. Like, sorry, this is Josh Hager. Well, it was back in my day. For the colors, they let us fight till we were unhealthy stages. Da, 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 da. And as you understand and watch more combat sports and know history, like there's actually like truth to that. And it's so uncomfortable when Oral Boy fights because it just like it makes me feel like should I be like some white slave owner guy like with my money when I'm betting on these fights because I really feel dirty. I feel extra dirty because it feels like he is sacrificing his well-being for our entertainment. And I'm like, make it to round two, Oral Boy, make it to round two. Sorry. It's uncomfortable. I'm like, what's wrong with us? Look at us, this poor guy. I mean, this fight might need to be stopped. He's a savage out there. Not the maybe wrong word, Roganism, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, what's wrong with us? Like, what are we cheering on here? Sorry, I like him, but it's
No, no,
uncomfortable.
yeah. He's good, man. But there's an uncomfortable quality to the fights. Yeah.
Like he just takes a lot of damage, like a ridiculous
Yeah,
Diego
yeah. Even
Sanchez
even though
Cannon
he
style.
even though he wins like very dominantly, he still takes damage, man.
Yeah, you're like what the fuck?
Next we had like one of the I'm pretty sure everyone remembers this great main event. Derrick Lewis versus versus Nascimento. Like,
St. Louis, baby.
man, this main event
There's some
was
sketch on this card,
shit,
too.
especially because Derrick Lewis is
Yeah.
not even relevant at this moment, man. And of course, the co-main event has Joaquin Buckley. Like, he's always there.
Your favorite. Your favorite. Your favorite.
And that fight against Rusy Boy was ass, man.
And how about people still like rate like? And I don't want to like Buckley deserves his flowers, for his collective body of work. But in giving him his flowers, don't you get annoyed when people are like, "And Ruzaboyev, look at that!"
Oh my god, like,
And you're like, "No."
yeah, Rusy Boy looked super bad in this fight. Like,
And he got finished. Like he got finished like 3 times. It's just Keith Peterson was the referee. Was the only problem. So.
yeah, he was getting hurt bad, but the highlight from this card was obviously Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Rambetsky. That fight was great, man.
Oh yeah.
That was a great old man performance there.
Another guy, Rumbeski, very much like Oral By, just takes ridiculous amounts of damage. Like that's it catches up to him. So you're right,
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
win or
for
lose,
sure.
Rumbeski was just like he also have his like eye closed like a video game.
Yeah, that was we'll get into Rambetsky versus Orobai, but that was like designing a lab to be like as violent as possible.
Yes, yeah, that's evil. Now that you think about it, like of course they put those two together. Those evil
Other-
bastards.
Other highlights from this card include like Sean Woodson versus Caceres was fine. Chase Hooper beating the shit out of Borshev was surprising.
Oh yeah,
That was crazy, man.
Jesus.
Yeah. Terrence
That was like-
McKinney.
that was-
Go ahead.
I was just saying, Chase Hooper versus Borshev was like an opportunistic moment, but then you can't be like, oh, it's just an opportunistic moment, or he's just an opportunist, because he took that moment and just never let it go.
Yeah, no,
Stayed
he just
on him. He's never
he
let
just
it go.
rode that wave like so hard.
Yes, dude.
McKinney getting killed again, sleeping to the right as he does.
Oh, your boy, man. This is Ribovic bias aside, because I know we both consider him our boys.
Yeah.
But this has got to be maybe not win, but this is worthy enough to be on like a contender list, right? Like if you're voting for knockout of the year.
That was a crazy knockout, man. Especially with the
Right?
the way like he
hits the fence.
he hide the yeah yeah. I mean you're getting lucky if you're going for knockout of the year and you're getting a finish over McKinney. Like you're in good you're in good position,
Sure,
but
yeah, that's true. Oh no. like wait, Johnny Walker.
yeah, pretty much, man. Tabata Ricci with the first
Oh no.
her first as burglary of the year there.
The chat right now, like, oh, look at Dan Tom.
Yeah, man.
Take a shot. Hey, take a shot for take a shot for Tisha and Dern. But yeah, she got booty burglarized again here on this fight. You know, this fight made the list. By the way, this was another one where a 30-27 for the loser was a more appropriate scorecard than a 29-28 for the winner.
Yeah.
That's a good barometer for a bad scorecard. I
Yeah.
think that's fair.
Yeah, that's a classic one. Like when the 30-27 the opposite way makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we've got a bad scorecard. It's fair to say.
Lerone Murphy versus Barbosa was the next Apex
Let's go.
event, and that fight was great. I mean, great performance by Lerone Murphy.
Yeah, very good fight. And what makes you wonder how many featherweight fights and bantamweight fights we get like that if they got actual more main event slots,
Yeah. Angela Hill had a great performance in that event. She was that her first finish in the UFC, I think. That guillotine that she got over Luana Pinheiro.
Yeah.
But that was very cool,
Yeah.
man. That was
That
cool.
was awesome.
Yeah. And then we have UFC 302, Islam Makhachev versus Austin Poirier. I don't remember a lot of this event, but I remember everyone thinking that the event was like complete trash, and then everyone loved the main event, and it was a great fight. It was a very good fight.
It was. So this one, Fenyo, I can't remember everything. Like Brian Ortega over Ria Rodriguez, like I said, was one of the selections for submission of the year. But of everything there was to vote for, I didn't feel like there was much great choices. And I ended up voting for Makhachev over Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, I mean it was a very good one, especially because of the takedown with the U sweep from the single leg.
Sh-
That was cool
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, and the way
yeah,
the way he caught him in the transition, because he baited him into like going into this like single leg position to go into the darts, was very cool, man.
yeah.
Uh, the rest of that event was like, looking back, this was so bad, man. Like Strickland versus Costa, disgusting, and it was 5 rounds. Like who wanted that, man? Uh, Kevin Holland versus Oleg Chaychuk was
Yeah.
stupid.
I was gonna say if I remember like breaking this down, and it was like I'm like if Kevin Holland wasn't fighting a guy who fights with like a suicide bomb jacket strapped to his chest, then that would have been another decision. It would have been like 4 straight decisions going into the main event.
Yeah. Nico Price versus Moreno was bad. Randy Brown versus
Yep.
Salazar Santos was okay, but okay doesn't cut it when the when the whole event is so bad, right?
Yep.
Kopilov versus Almeida was okay too, but as I'm saying, like okay is not enough, man. This event was rough as shit, man.
Jailman. Jailman stock has really gone down. As much as I love saying the Jailman's
Yeah,
name,
yeah.
stock has really gone down in the Jailman as well. Oh man.
You know it's rough because like Hafez versus Mickey Gall was like a fun banger, but that should not be like the second best fight of the night, right?
Yeah, and then like Hafez still gets like a lot of shit despite winning that fight. Like the way people recap it, you're like, it was like I don't even think his stock went anywhere up, and that was one of the better fights of the night. That's a really bad sign.
Yeah. After that, we have Cannonier versus Imavov.
Oh
This was
yeah,
that was a pretty, to be fair, like of all the like middleweights main events, this one was one of the good ones, I would say. Very weird stoppage though that kind of ruined the fight. But it was a very good fight until last. Especially, I felt like Cannonier
yeah,
maybe not giving himself the best chance with all the takedown attempts that were not working. But other than that, it was a very solid fight. Oh,
yeah. That was a tough one. That was a tough one. Go ahead.
we had the return of Crash Bandicoot here because Dominic Reyes knocked out Dustin Jacoby there.
He is built like him. Oh my,
He's
he's
just
got the same build.
yeah, he's built just like him.
Oh no! Oh no!
Other than that, not a lot going on here, man. But Imao versus Cannonier, and maybe the beginning of the downfall of Cannonier, right? We still yet to see, but maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I hate to admit it, as somebody who picked him to win that fight, and it was whether who would have won, regardless, it was not the best stoppage, but at the same time, you know what, it could very be the fight where it starts to show the cracks.
Yeah, the next event was UFC Perez versus Tyra, and this one we talked a lot about this one because like the narratives surrounding the main event were crazy, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
like of course Tyra deserves the win. He deserves
Right.
credit. But you cannot act like, oh, he was looking to injure his knee with the takedown. It's just a broomstick takedown from the back take. Like, it's a thing that a lot of people
Dude,
know how to do. It was not like a secret Japanese technique, man.
Bisbing glazed Tyra like a
Oh,
fucking
no, the
Krispy Kreme
commentary
donut.
was so
Holy
bad.
shit.
Yeah, commentary
They were
was so
just
bad.
oh, yeah, that was so bad. And again, this was one of those fights where it's like, and again, you know what I'm talking about here. It doesn't matter if you don't have to bet to understand this venue. You're the same way where like you're an analyst, right? Whether you make picks or not, you do have projections, right? As far
Yeah.
as like, oh, this guy's gonna be good, or I rate this guy high, or I rate this victory over this guy high or low, right? You obviously have those projections, and there's a lot of times where you're just like, what the fuck? Where you're like, being wrong's one thing. It's like results are like a coin flip. But to your point, the going into the fight, the commentary, like all the narrative was super heavy, and it was really weird because
It was very weird,
usually,
yeah.
because usually from promotion to like even at gamblers and everything in between, like not a fan of the Asians, Fenyo, not a fan of the Asians, and all of a sudden, as a guy who like you think would be happy, with all the Asian love coming in, I'm like skeptical. I'm like, what the fuck? Where is this shit coming from? And it just felt so weird. And we'll talk about it later because I can't remember who. But there are those cases where this happens. I'm sure with you, Fenyo, where this happens, you're wrong, and it feels like you're double wrong. It's almost annoying, right?
Yeah.
Like you feel like that meme of the what's it called, the guy with in the bar, the New Year's meme where he's all sad with the white guy with the mustache and the long hair, and everybody's partying for New Year's, right? Like, and I don't know. That's how I feel in my head sometimes. But then, like down the road, a fight happens, right? And you're like, see, no, he was that guy. He was exactly who I thought he was. All y'all fuckers got fucking fooled, right? And it wasn't that dramatic with Tyra as it was with other fighters, but there was a little bit of that, like a bit of a reckoning, I think, later where you saw like, oh yeah, he's still really raw. Like let's relax here, folks. We really didn't see much, and Alex Perez is better than all y'all give him credit for, anyways. But that was unfortunate because I'm a Perez fan too. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this bad luck again. We just talked about that, like
But
Chris.
it seems like there was a shift regarding especially Japanese fighters when it came to the UFC, right, this year. Like
Yeah.
the
Bringing
way they pushed
Nakamura.
Tyra, they pushed the other Tyra, the guy that fights at flyweight too, Nakamura as well, and then
Asakura.
with Kaya
Yeah.
Sakura, yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Japanese guys getting like a big push this year, which is weird because for us that we have been watching the UFC for such a long time, it seems like they never have liked the Japanese fighters, right?
No, like even with the history and their love for rematches, they waited to like forgive Okami a shot until it was the last possible. Like they needed someone. Like Anderson was. You sure you don't want to go to 205 again?
And
You
Okami
know,
was
like
on a run, man. Like,
yeah, he was on a run for a minute. You forgot about it because he was buried on the prelims. They're just like, like I guess we'll give it to him. And then all of a sudden, like watching them market him was hilarious because they were just like, because there wasn't much like they weren't big into marketing Asians. They didn't know how to, and then Okami wasn't exactly a highlight reel fighter. So like they were just grasping at straws, like the best Japanese fighter to step into the octagon, and I'm like, can you really say that? Because technically Sakuraba fought
yeah,
in the UFC, even though he wasn't known as a UFC fighter, and yeah, it got all
it
murky.
is
It
weird.
got
It is
so
weird
murky.
because they're like hyping the Japanese prospects, but at the same time they're doing a lot of like revisionism or like. So it's weird, yeah.
It
Uh,
is so weird, yeah.
After that, we had an event on Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. We had Robert Whittaker against Alex
Giving us
Kero.
hope.
And yeah, that was another like a feel good moment with
Yeah,
Whittaker
feel
with the
good.
uppercut and the finish there. It was good stuff. Not a lot going on other than that in that card. Shara Bullet. Oh, Shara Bullet.
Our
Beating
favorite.
Trocoli. But yeah, but
Uh,
watching that, like him killing Trocoli is fine, right? Because Trocoli also a douchebag.
yeah,
So.
yeah. Douchebag Olympics there.
Oh, Volkan Ozdemir killing Johnny Walker was fun. I'm sorry, Johnny
Oh
Walker.
man, yeah. Oh my goodness.
And yeah, and Renat getting yet another robbery in that one.
The fake. Oh yeah, he got honorable mention, but it was a different Renat fight that I thought was even worse, and we'll get to that. But we'll get your opinion on there. But this was a really bad one too, in my opinion.
Yeah, we had UFC 303, so Pereira versus Jiri 2. Not long after UFC 300, so both guys saw action there. Jiri took a lot of damage. Pereira took no damage. It was clear that the matchup was like in favor of Pereira, so it was like somewhat clear to me that the UFC were like, okay, we're getting Alex another win, and if we are wrong, as we still get like Jiri as a champion, that's not that bad. So we had a co-main event, one of the craziest moments of the year with Danige like filling in last minute,
Yeah,
like legit last minute, like less than like 5 hours notice to fight Diego Lopez, and putting it to him on that third round. I think people forget, man, that Danige was
I was
like beating Diego Lopez on the third round.
I was at this one live actually, but yeah, I forgot. I think in arena we found out like even later.
Oh, that's crazy, man. Other than that, not a lot though. Ian Gary having like a not very impressive win against Michael Page.
And again, questionable decision, and another round that hinged on a back take that didn't even
Yeah,
produce a submission catch, much less damage. And again, now you guys want to overvalue?
yeah,
Sorry,
I'm
that was
fine.
annoying. I was like, ugh.
I'm fine with scoring that one for MVP. I think live I scored that for MVP. So
Me too. I just thought it was my bias, but I actually recently had to go back and rewatch that fight, and I was like, oh, how'd they give that to Gary? Oh, where I think I was a little more just checking my bias
yeah,
live. But you know how it is. You go back to watch fights too, Fenyo, and you're just like, no. Again, it's one of those things where sometimes you're off, but other times you're like, no, my inner instinct was right. That did seem off. That was an off decision. Sorry,
yeah.
not terrible, not robbery. It didn't make
No,
my list.
not robbery, but it was kind of
But it
weird.
was
Yeah,
like, yeah.
especially because it was unanimous, right? Um, Andre Philly
Yeah,
and
dude.
Kev Swanson had a pretty good like old man fight. I thought Swanson won personally, but it was another one that you could score either way. Jan Silva, tremendous performance against Charger
Oh, yeah.
Dane. Yeah, fantastic. He looked great there. And Peyton Talbot just like 19 seconds knockout against Yanis Gemuri. So the Talbot train going strong there. Then we had yet another Rose Namajunas main event. Like the UFC went on with Thug Rose in this year against Tracy Cortez. Tracy took this one in very short notice, and she was putting the punches together on those last 2 rounds, man. She almost had it, but I think this was the right score. I thought Rose won the first 3 rounds. But not very impressive for Rose, to be honest. She's losing like these stand-up fights against against wrestlers now, so it's like,
I joke about Predator Pat's open mat, but like her grappling's been looking better and her striking's been suffering. So maybe there's something to that.
yeah.
Just saying.
And then if you thought that Jan Silva looked great against Charger Dane, he comes like the next week and he beats the shit out of Drew Dober too. So like,
Dude,
one of the fighters of the year, Jan Silva for sure, man.
I was like,
That was
I was
insane.
doing one of the Anik and Florian streams, and they thought it was funny at least. But I was like, hey, does John Silva look like Sam Sicilia rebranded himself as a Brazilian? And I'm like, holy shit, looks like Sam Sicilia.
He looks like Sam Sicilia, man.
So I think I got that stuck in their head, which is good, hopefully. But yeah, he looks like Sam Sicilia for sure. What's the next event, or what would have
It
been?
this was a surprising main event, but one that I support very much. It was Lemos versus Jandirova.
Angie Jones.
Jandy Jones, man,
Angie
and
Jones.
Virna with a great performance. I gotta say, man.
Yeah,
She
absolutely.
felt
She's
so
awesome.
smart. She was controlling the action on the feet against a very dangerous striker, and when it comes to the ground, she very creative with her scrambling abilities to take the back and on the first round, and then on the second one from top, like fantastic. And then she used the if I'm not mistaken, one of the coolest submission of the year, man, because Lemos, I think she had like the Kimura grip. And Jandiroa went for the classic counter into the armbar, using her grip against her.
Yeah.
So that was very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
That was cool. That was cool. Hey, real quick, Jimmy Kudo just asked if Renat had the weirdest record of questionable splits, and we'll touch on that at the end because so far we haven't gotten to one fighter yet, but so far we have two at this point of the year. We've got two runners up. It's Renat and Tabitha Ricci. Our fake, questionable splits, fake winning streaks.
Yeah, fake winning streaks, man.
Yeah, we'll award that at the end here, but we'll get into that. Don't worry. Sorry. Go ahead, Fenyo.
No, it's all good. Then we have UFC 304 in England. We have Remember the Name against Leon Edwards. Man,
Oh, God.
I thought, even though the vibes were all on Belal Muhammad corner, I still think this was like super close to score. It comes down to like one round, the first round, to be honest. It was like very clear, 2 rounds each, and then the first round
Yeah.
that most people saw for Belal. I personally saw it for Leon Edwards. And I stand by that. But I'm not mad at Belal winning that. But yeah, and
I'd
it's
have to.
go on.
Oh, sorry. I'd have to rewatch. This was another fight where I think something broke my spirit. Like two fights prior to this, which I know we'll talk about. But
Oh
I
yeah,
was
man.
my head was still probably recovering from that BS. But yeah, I have to rewatch. But it was close. I do agree. I think I remember it being closer than I think people think about in retrospect.
Yeah, especially the seeing here the decision. There was a 49-46 in favor of Belal. That's insane because Leon had like super clear 2 rounds. I think it was like the third and the fifth that were like obviously Leon's. So that's weird.
Dude, that was again. I mean, shout out to Sean Sheehan who he tweeted, there were no robberies in 2024, absolutely no robberies, and I'm like, I hate the robbery word, and I can stand by the record and have a huge sample size of seldom ever using it. That being said, not only were there a ton of really bad decisions this year, Fenyo, and please argue with me if you feel different, but there were some like 2007 and last couple of years. There's been some like 2007 ass decisions. You know what I'm saying? Like 49-46 is a Diego Sanchez scorecard, right? Like where
Yeah.
you're just giving the guy for coming forward and trying to wrestle whether he's effective or not. Like that's essentially what you're grading if you're telling me, right? Like that was a
No.
Diego Sanchez ass scorecard. Like
That's
this,
Diego Sanchez scoring. Yeah, for sure.
and we've seen some of that. Like this didn't affect the fight or the outcome, right? So much, at least, right? Because that was only one scorecard, right? And the others, whether even though they had a different outcome, they kind of agree with you in the sense of 48-47 makes for that 1 round differential, right?
Yeah.
But there's been fights worse than this that actually affected the outcome, in my opinion, and we'll get to them as they come. But Fenyo, are you with me too? Like, do you feel kind of there were some really bad decisions and really bad cards this year,
Some
right?
very weird scorecards. Sometimes they get lost, like in this case, because they end up like being like right at the end of the day, but there are some like very questionable that are concerning scorecards over the year,
That
man.
30-27 to we didn't get to it yet, but that 30-27 to Ivasa, it didn't affect the winner, but it was like why was that card even in
Yeah,
existence? That makes no sense.
yeah, for sure. James
Yeah,
Gator
sorry,
said
sorry,
we
go
had
ahead.
some
Yeah.
Jung Hyun Ko scorecards on actual scorecards.
Hey,
Uh,
my guy JHK made a little inside information. He may or may not be doing that on purpose because he may or may not have realized that he's like, dude, it's almost like they're encouraging me to do it by putting me on the broadcast. So I put out ridiculous scores. So now when I
oh,
see it, I'm laughing because it's like a multi-troll level. He's like trolling everybody on every level at that point. So because I even see like my friends and people who are in the know and cool and who I respect, like you guys getting pissed at John, and I'm laughing because I'm like, he's doing it on purpose.
oh man, that's insane, man. Because I'm like I see one of his scorecards on the corner, and I'm like, dude.
No, he's great. I got to hang out with him in person over in Thailand and shit. And he was I think we were really watching like one of them. He's like, hold on, we were like half watching. He's like, hold on, I gotta tweet something out because they're gonna put it on the broadcast. And so now
Oh
I
my
see it,
god, man,
and I
that's
laugh
insane.
because it's like he's fooling the UFC by putting like maybe they think he's serious, whether or not they're doing it for the engagement, and then like it's pissing a bunch of other people off. So it's just,
That
I
he,
love it. It's just fucking hilarious.
yeah,
It's chaos, man.
that's
It's some Joker
insane, man.
shit.
That's
That's some
insane.
Joker shit. Shout
Uh,
out to GHK.
we we saw Tomas Pinal doing Tomas Pinal shit right there against Curtis Blades because Curtis Blades cannot win
Yeah.
big fights. My dude, man, love him bad. He cannot
Oh,
win these fights, man.
that was brutal. Yeah, that was brutal. Yep.
We saw Bobby Green. I mean, excuse me, King Green, just fighting like a buffoon against Paddy Pimblet, man. And it sucks
This
because
is,
like if Paddy is good, like let me see that he's good, but but I'm not even allowed that, right? I just wanna.
yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, I want Paddy Pimblett to lose, but at the same time, I just want to know how good he is, and these fights are not showing me that. So.
No, it just pampers the. It's like the perfect outcome for the person least deserving of it, which I love. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe that's why I love the show The Wire so much because like The Wire, like good deeds are not rewarded, and like the shittier people are promoted, and that's kind of like the overall theme, whether it's the cops or the drug dealers or the politicians. And like maybe that's why I like MMA so much, right, Benyo? Because doesn't that feel like MMA? Like the
Yeah.
good, and remember, like it's like Frankie Edgar got sacrificed for nothing, matchmaking wise, right? With your boy Goody, right?
Yeah.
And it's like we just talked about like the freaking ridiculous Game of Thrones heartbreaking beating we had to see Jim Miller go through, right? For King Green, right? And then it's like, oh, just so King Green can get this fight and then just jump into a guillotine. Like it just feels like the Jim Miller beatdown was for nothing because Bobby just takes that momentum and runs right into Patty's like best choke with you. Like, come on, really?
Yeah, it
Really?
was.
It looked like someone. It looked like whoever was controlling Bobby Green like dropped the controller. You know when you drop the controller right on the joystick part and it
Yeah.
launches the guy forward. Like that's exactly looked like what happened, right? It's like, oh.
It was insane, man. It was so weird, but it at the same time, like it's something that these fighters that have this like very big popularity, they get that advantage because like fighter gets so nervous because like everyone now that fights Paddy is like I'm going to be the guy that beats Paddy Pimblett. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that guy, and they just like fuck it up, man.
Dude, you know what Patty should do in his next fight? He should just go straight up Chris Weidman and be like double eye poke.
Yeah.
Get the decision
And,
winning England. Like,
they're going to allow him. They're going to allow him for sure.
so bad.
Other than that, we had that crazy fight between Mokayev and Manel Cap. And to be honest, I thought Cap won that one, but
Yeah. The
so
build
yeah.
up too, Jesus.
Let's move on to Sanhagen versus Nurmagomedov. A fight that a lot of people enjoyed. I wasn't that big of a fan. I mean, I was very impressed with Umar, but I am not liking this new Corey Sanhagen, to be quite honest. I thought
Yeah, that bump. Yeah.
I think he showed up with a lot of interesting looks grappling wise, but the striking, man, I'm not sure about this, to be honest.
Yeah, the phases he thought he was going to thrive in, he didn't, right? And not that he spends a lot of time in boxing range per se, but certain ranges against Umar, at least on paper, you thought maybe he would have. But it wasn't even the success. It just seemed like not even. It wasn't even just a lack of success. It seemed like a lack of almost confidence in certain phases too, right? Which was more disturbing. But
yeah, man, it was like he's like paring down his striking selection a lot. He's like very minimalistic right now. When he was like a very like more of a creative volume kind of guy, and now he's a lot. I feel like he's like mitigating risk, and it doesn't like super gel with his personality as a fighter. I feel so maybe there's something there. A lot of people
Yeah.
obviously like blaming Trevor Whitman here. I think we need a few more fights to be sure, for sure, if that's the case. But we've seen Trevor Whitman like being very good for some fighters, but at the same time, in the long run, we've seen some of his like negative influence in some like very top fighters, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Hey, how the hell did not to keep things going, but also apologies for jumping ahead. How did Sharapute Magomedov go the distance with Mikhail Alexeyev? We just talked about Mikhail fighting like he's got a suicide jacket with a timer on it. Like, how does that guy get to the scorecard? How did that happen, Fenyo? Do you
I
remember?
don't even remember, man. I just
It
remember
seems so
that.
improbable. It seems so improbable.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, because Alexeyev used to be the guy that he was like the most like kill or be killed guy in the roster.
yes.
And
yeah.
now he's going to like weird decisions. And Chara Bullet himself, a super big finisher. So this is such a weird
Right.
outcome, right? Like you would expect one of these guys is going to die in this one. And it did
Yeah,
not
yeah.
happen yet.
One of the others going to expose the other, kind of a deal, one way or the other. Yeah, it was like, holy crap, that's crazy. Like,
Figueredo versus Chito was fun.
yeah, first person to knock down Chito Vera officially. Chito Vera, I should say, suffers his first knockdown of his career in that fight.
The crazy stuff, man, because he has been. I mean, he wasn't knocked down in that fight against O'Malley, so that's crazy, right?
Yep. that was a validation for people like myself too that said figure was a bantamweight, and then people were still doubting it because of how he looked. But I'm like, no, he's a bantamweight, man. He's power and everything still translates.
Yeah, no, he's a real bantamweight for sure, and we will be talking about that later.
Yeah.
Tybura versus Spivak 2. Man, that this one is in contention with the Lewis versus. I mean, at least this one at least. In one hand, this one is a rematch, and no one likes rematch for irrelevant fights. But on the other hand, this one is a lot more relevant than Lewis versus Nascimento, right?
Sad to say, but very true. Very true. Sad to say, but true.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta give it to Spivak though, because that was a crazy armbar from bottom for a heavyweight.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, Spivak's so like inconsistent, but it's like I don't know. It's like a mix of being inconsistent and a grappler, just because just being a grappler at the higher weight classes can make you like look like Jesus Christ in certain matchups because guys don't know how to grapple.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was a bad look for Spivak because he's the wrestler and he got taken down by Tybura. So.
Yeah, and then Tybura was the black belt and he got submitted.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah.
Chepe Mariscal put on a beating on Damon Jackson, man. That was.
Jesus, yeah, he did.
I like Chepe. Too bad that he showed up like super heavy for this fight, so that's kind of tainted there. But
I understand the struggle, Chepe. Sorry.
Duplessis versus Adesanya was the next pay-per-view.
Oh my goodness, Jesus Christ!
Man, that was.
I mean, talk about failing your way upward, right? We just talked about MMA where you fail your way up. How about the middleweight division, Fenyo? Holy shit, Duplessis. He was getting knocked down in the takedowns.
Man, it was like this fight was so weird. Like it was like Adesanya like looking by far the better fighter, but still like having like sketchy moments here and there. And to be honest, like watching live, I was like, oh no, he's going to fuck up. He's going to fuck up. He's going to fuck up. He's fucking up. He's fucking up.
Yeah, you didn't want to acknowledge it, and then you're like, and just the simple fact of like his Duplessis' most effective moments came off of him getting knocked down.
Yeah,
like how do you beat that, dude? You know what I'm saying? Like wait a minute. So like the more I kill the guy, the more I get fucked up.
Then Albert.
How does that?
Then Albert in the chat with exactly face planting his way to victory in this one, man.
Yes. Daddy.
Danae or man. Danae or boy.
Man, Dan Albert, what's up?
Oh man.
Dude.
It was like
that was great.
Yeah, it was like Easy was like should be more successful here and he's not, and you can tell like, he was having those weird moments backing up with his hands down like why are you doing this, Easy? And
yeah.
But shout out to Duplessis, man, because he took advantage of everything that was given to him.
We can move on, but to plant the seed, because we have the perfect person to answer the question in the chat. That's Dan Albert. But Dan Albert, anybody else in the chat, obviously, but who is the video game character allegory or analogy or whatever the word I'm trying to search for Drakus Duplessis, you know? Like, to where you could fuck the character up, and the more you fucked it up, the harder you get fucked up. Like, you invite your own death. Who is that character? Hit us in the chat. But sorry, go ahead, Fenya.
Yeah, please, Dan Albert, light us. Co-main event was very surprising, but also cool in my opinion, because Sky Kara France silencing the doubters with the knockout against Steve Erceg, who was like super hot after his performance against Pantoja.
Yeah.
Big moment for Sky Kara France. I thought
huge.
He deserved the title shot over Kaya Sakura, to be honest. But yeah, man, that was huge. Dan Hooker, finally the guy to win a decision against the gun robber. Mateus Gamrov. Dan Hooker, right. Great performance, man. Especially because Hooker, in my opinion, was starting to look a little bit washed. And he came back hard in that fight, man. It was cool stuff. Rosenstruck beating the shit off to Ibasa, and it went to a split decision. One of the sketchiest cards of the year, man. Yeah. What in the fuck was that, man? Yes. And Carlos Prates over the leash. Man, that knockout was crazy, man.
Yeah.
One of the knockouts also in the running for knockout of the year because that was insane, man.
Yeah, that was one where it's like I picked Prates. I picked him to win by KO, which that was the first time he ever got stopped, by the way, the
Yeah,
leech.
yep.
But I saw it like as a brutal one, like the faceplant meme with the guys in the puddle of water. Like that's how I forecasted the fight. Not only did that happen, but I was still surprised. I was still blown away with the way it happened. Like I was like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah,
man. Like,
exactly. It was
that's
like,
when you know you're impressed. When you expect it and you're still like blown away. You're like, Jesus.
yeah, yeah. It was the same for me. I was like, I'm picking Pratis by knockout, and I was like, I was supposed to be waiting for it. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah. Then another middleweight main event, but this one was good. Canyoneer versus Bohalio. I felt like it was a good fight. Kind of frustrating at times, but it was a good one, man. And man, they robbed you so bad with that knockout on the fifth round. Man, that was rough because that was like the way that he got dropped. Like you're supposed to stop that fucking fight, man.
Yeah.
That fifth round knockdown, that was crazy, especially because Bohali was
the ref on that one.
Bohali. I don't remember, but Bohali was winning the fight too. So why are you like? You should stop that fight. Oh, and
yeah, it was bad.
And the co-main event, sure. Oh, of course, the co-main event because it was like such a let's fuck Dan Thomas tonight. Because we have booty burglary all over, like Tabata Ricci over Angela Hill.
Yeah.
That was such a bad decision. It was like Angela Hill all the way, man.
That one got a shout too, absolutely. Oh, that was a bad one.
That was so bad. I forgot about that one, but that was super bad. Michael Morales, like, being like, that was such a Dricus du Plessis victory against Neil Magny, man.
That was, yeah, when I rewatched, that was so... By the way, it was big. It was Tandan in the main event.
Oh.
Big Dan Berkeley had I don't know if I should stop it. Hey, come on, guys. Hey, Kevin Holland, no talking trash. Come on, keep it classy. I don't like the cocky stuff from you guys. I only call out certain color guys for it, though, strangely. But I'm Tandan. Sorry. He's probably a nice guy. I'm just things I noticed. Sorry.
Shout out to GM3 against Edmund Shabasian because we both knew.
Yes.
When he was fighting that single leg, to drop into guard loop, we knew we knew he had that fight in the bag.
Yeah, it was so good. That was a feel good one for sure. Yep, that was a feel good one.
And if we're separating the female and the male knockouts, Wang Kong against Victoria Leonardo, one of the knockouts of the year for the girls, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That was rough, man.
Yeah, like most of Victoria Leonardo's TKO losses were weirdly like arm breaks. Like she never got put out like that.
Yeah. After that, we had Sean Brady versus Gilbert Burns. Very impressive, like performance by Brady in the output that he put because he was very active, very like he got beat by Bilal Mohammed doing that, and he was like, "I'm going to become that. I'm going to become a Bilal Mohammed kind of guy." Gilbert Burns showed tremendous defensive wrestling in that fight, but man, the output is not there anymore.
Yeah, that was a tough one to see. I think I picked Burns in that fight, but yeah, it was hard to say what the 5 rounds would favor or not because we never saw Brady in 5 rounds, and he passed with flying colors as far as the cardio goes.
Natalia Silva had a very good performance against Jessica Andrade. Looking kind of sketchy at moments. It felt like it would have been a way closer fight if Andrade was closer to her prime. I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Like she got a lot of margins out of Andrade being old in that fight. Cream Machine getting yet another finish against Kyle Nelson.
Yeah. Creaming it up. They had to mop it up after he fights, man.
Yeah.
So much in there.
Cody Durden versus Chanel was kind of frustrating because Chanel shooting for such a bad takedown and getting his neck. And he was fighting a good fight before that. I felt like he won the first round. So it was kind of sad that he had to retire after that because he was fighting a good fight, I felt.
Yep, same.
We had O'Malley versus Dvalishvili. Very similar to Edwards versus Mohammed in the sense that no one cared about that decision, but I felt like you could score that to O'Malley despite the bad vibes. But it was a very close
Yeah,
fight score wise. Like if you go by damage and effective, because like Merab was not having a lot of successful grappling in this one. He was winning on volume and landing strikes in transition mostly. But I felt
yeah.
like three of the rounds were very close. I mean, the fifth round was not even close. Like Merab got hurt. It was very funny too because like both both Belal and Merab were like the cardio machines, and both guys lost the fifth round of their fights.
And I guess it was the takedown threat, but it was just another classic fight where a guy has the front teep and then forgets about the front teep.
Yeah.
You know, you see that so much. Like, it's working.
Uh,
We should work on paper. It's working in practice. Why'd you stop?
and
And
then
then
he
you see at the end it
remembered on
hurts
the
him.
fifth round and he hurts him super bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso did not show up, man, at all. Like she
No,
had
no.
no answers. Valentina looked pretty good, to be honest. Like she looked pretty good. She was not doing the stupid shit that was getting her punished against Grasso in the past. She was not working very hard from top position, but to be honest, like Grasso was not doing her a lot to work with. She was not working get ups, and you know if you allow Valentina to lay on top of you, she's going to do it because she's like, I'm going to win even if it is the lamest fight of all time.
You know
But
what? I blame all the Legends of the Hidden Temple Aztec people of the sphere. I think they're a bunch of
uh,
they're a bunch of simps, fan, yo. I'm gonna say it because they got won over by Valentina Shevchenko's dancing. They got dazzled. They're like, you know what? All right, Queen. We will be under the octagon with our magnets, and we're gonna hold Alexa Grasso down. That's a conspiracy theory take, man.
and it was
No,
like
no. Yeah, she had a bad
after
performance. Yeah.
after the second round, Alexa did not have the medals to hand to the to the guys. So
Yes. Yep. She lost.
uh,
Uh,
Diego Lopez fought a very Brian Ortega that looked shot as shit, man. He looked
yeah.
so bad in this fight.
Yeah, that was.
Was rough to watch, man. Because you can tell that Ortega was figuring some stuff out later in the fight, especially since the second round. But he couldn't put the output. He was getting hit too hard from Lopez. So
He's not
it's
taking the damage as well.
yeah,
Speaking of that trend, right?
yeah, and it sucks for Lopez because like I mean everyone is high on him, but for me it was like you're not looking bad, but you should be displaying your skills against like better opposition than this. It's not his
Mm,
fault, obviously, but
yeah.
this was supposed to be the fight on that night that Danige filled in very short notice. So
And
uh,
this was supposed to be the card that Dan Ige wanted, and Dana's like, "Whatever you want, Dan. That
yeah,
kid gets whatever he wants." He's like, "I
yeah,
want to fight the
and
Spear." He's
he
like,
and he didn't
"No,
get
we got
it.
something better for you."
Yeah. Esteban Ribovic and Sohuba had
Yes.
one of the best fights of the year. Absolute banger of a fight. This was tremendous. Maybe my favorite, I think. That was
Okay.
great. That was fucking
So
fantastic.
so I voted. I can't remember off the top of my head. I apologize of what they had for fights of the year. They did have like again we talked about like Max and Gaethje, which again I don't think that one should be on there. But of the fights that were on there, Fenyo, I ended up choosing Ribovic and Zellhuber. I ended up choosing this fight for my fight of the year. But I wasn't sold on it. I'm like, is there something else that I'm missing? You know, like I wouldn't put Jan and Figgy over this, although my bias would like want to have that as an honorable mention fight. But I can't think of anything better off the top of my head. Can you?
I mean, you could argue that maybe this one wasn't as important, but when it comes to the action, and it was obviously they didn't like went to the grappling and other parts of the fighting realm, but they were able to display like very high level technique because the fight
Mm,
stayed in their preferred range, and another thing that adds to this one other than or that it was like a main card. It was this Mexican pay-per-view, Legend of the Hidden Temple, and all that kind of shit. But the crowd was great for this fight, even though,
Yeah, and
and the crowd was not great for most of this night. But this fight was so good that they forced the fucking lame crowd to be good for this one. So.
and you had the good corner work too. I'm not just saying it because Eric Nixick's my boy, but like you had the drama, the building, you know, like where they both fighters need the third round, and then you had that drama of
the
I forget
knockdowns
exactly what he
both
was
ways.
saying,
Yeah, it was insane.
but you had Eric going, you know, just losing it on Zellhuber. Go get on your stick, you know, make sure you. I forget like what you call it. Shout out to our guy Miguel Class. He did a really good highlight of. You remember? He did a highlight of Eric saying something to Zellhuber in the round.
The elbow. He was calling for the elbow. Yeah.
Elbow,
And it was
in short when he
and it was
in.
funny because Ryan was calling for it on the first round, and Nixie saw exactly the same shit.
Yeah, yes. So there was a lot of layers, a lot of enjoyment, and then what I was gonna say is, I wasn't in charge of this or whatever, but I remember saying, probably someone on a Slack chat or something on work because I don't really tweet much anymore.
Yeah.
But I was saying, regardless if you think this is fight of the year, to me it's round of the year, round
Oh
3.
yeah, that round was
I mean,
crazy.
I definitely can't think of a better one round off the top of my head. This year, I mean, as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But that's for me. That was round of the year. Was so back and forth between them two.
No, that was fantastic, man. That was great.
Yeah.
And there was other like good fights on this one, like Rodriguez versus Osborne. I did not agree with the decision, but it was a solid
Right.
fight. Yeah,
It was wild. Yeah. Probably should have been a draw or something, right?
Norma Dumont
Yeah.
put on a great performance. She should be next for the title. To be honest, like I know that the UFC wants Skylar Harrison to be the champion, but to be honest, like Dumont has more merit to her. This is kind of a hot take, I guess, but it was a very impressive performance because unlike the Irene Aldana that showed up to fight or didn't show up for her title fight against Amanda Nunes, I felt like Aldana was ready to scrap in this one. She was trying very hard, and Dumont was just like one step ahead.
I got to be honest, guys. With my weird taste and sensibilities for certain things and certain fighters, I was too weirdly. Fanny already knows where I'm going. I was too weirdly horny watching this fight to be objective. So I was in horny jail watching this fight. So I have no opinions. No opinions.
Oh, my countryman Bahamontes, man, getting the knockout against Manuel Torres, who was not fighting a smart fight, man.
Yeah, no, this was another one. Was it Manuel Torres and then another guy who I always mix up with Manuel Torres? I think Sean Woodson beat him. They're very similar, like archetype of fighter to me in my head. But yeah, I'm not trying to jump ahead, but yeah, that was another fight where I think is just like, you know, Manuel Torres. I think he was still an underdog, but like it was like a popular pick, and I get it, like or whatever. But like for me, it was like one of those fights where I was like, I don't know, man. I think he came in and got like some knockouts that was like quick.
Yeah.
Over guys who, you know, I don't know if they were really properly rated one way or the other, and it kind of makes it a little muddy and whatnot. And I was like, I don't know. I think Bob Mundez, and then you might have went the other way, Feño, because people don't understand that Feño doesn't have like the Chilean like bias like you would think.
No,
like, he's the opposite.
I actually picked Bahamontes, but I wanted Torres to win. So
Yeah. Either way, I knew you had your weird anti-Chile bias, your fucking bias going.
No, but to be honest, I try to not be anti-Chilean, but and I feel like Ignacio is a good fighter. Like, don't get me wrong, he's very good. But I don't like the way he fights. These volume like long kickboxers, they kind of annoy me. So it doesn't matter if he's from my hometown or from Alaska. I don't give a shit about that style of fighting. But he looked good here. Like the counters were a new look that I pretty much welcome, to be honest. The other one that I wanted to highlight, Josh Mann versus Shires, that was a banger, man.
Oh yeah, that was a good fight.
That was a good fucking fight.
That was a really
yeah.
good fight.
Yeah, that one
good.
was cool. Yeah. After that, we had UFC in Paris because we have Moicano versus Saint Denis, and man, Money Moicano, man.
Yeah.
that first round was crazy to watch because we've seen how dominant Saint Denis is with the grappling, and Moicano took him to school.
Listen, motherfuckers, I have something to say. And I already start laughing at that point. I already start. The French Revolution was started from the. He starts like going like
you
holy
guys,
shit.
you guys trying not to kill God.
Yeah.
Oh, that interview was
Oh.
great. You need to read Mein Kampf.
Yeah. Oh my god. I forget what it was, but he said something, and then Gilbert's like, "Oh, is that your next speech, brother? Did you already start writing your next speech?" And he goes, I was like, "No, I didn't. Brother, I don't write that. I don't write. Okay." And he starts like trying to explain his methodology is great. Like, that's funny. Yeah, no, that was a good performance. And he was again. This is how crazy the sport is. Someone was asking me like, "Oh, do you have?" I was picking up. I cashed some tickets from like the last card of the year or whatever. Was talking to some guys and they're like, "Do you you have inside information since you work in MMA or this or that?" And I was trying to explain to them like this sport is so crazy, like a fist fight to predict it. Like inside information, not only does it not help you, it can hurt you. So if I
Yeah,
told you that Moicano, who already was an underdog to Saint Denis, right? He was like a 2-1 underdog on paper, right? Going in. Now I told you that underdog, he's going into the fight with a separated shoulder.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
insane. Yeah,
would you have picked Moicano? I don't know who you picked, but would you have picked Moicano? You know, if you knew that venue?
I would have gone like so quick on Saint Denis if you told me that. Like,
Yeah, right. Like, and it'd be dangerous because you'd be like, oh, I have. You feel like, oh, I have inside information, and then you'd be like, oh, I have an edge on the market. I'm gonna go unload on Saint Denis,
yeah,
right? And then look what happens. The motherfucker still wins. He
yeah.
gets messed up and still wins. So it's like, dude, you can't be sure of anything in this. This game is so crazy, man. Like, but yeah, that was crazy. You know what fight I want to talk about, so I'll let you take the lead. I want to wait till the fight.
Okay,
You know
okay,
what?
okay. We had the co-main event. We saw Imavov against Brendan Allen, and I think Allen fucked himself in this one. Not that he was going to win if he fought a good fight, but I don't think he gave himself the best chance of winning because he was so scared of striking, and the striking gap between them is not as big as he showed in this fight. And I think he like super sold out on the takedown idea after getting that super clear takedown. Another weird thing is that Allen usually is good at landing ground and pound, and he sold out for control on that first round. So it was not a good showing by Brendan Allen.
Yeah, he's facing Fluffy next too, I think, right? In January, this next coming
Oh,
month or something.
that fight's great.
Right?
I have to watch their first fight because I've heard that it's a crazy fight.
Yes. Yeah. LFA, I think that one
Okay,
was.
so
But,
our favorite now, because
oh, Jesus.
William Gomez defeated Joanderson Brito, controversial split decision. But the thing that sucks the most, other than the decision being kind of sketchy, I think it could have gone either way. I feel maybe, but it's like, why did Gomez decide to show up for this one? Like, why?
Yeah.
He was
that
so bad. He was so bad all year, and he decided to be like kind of decent in this one.
Well, in the third round, he puts up a good fight because he still gets tagged probably just as hard in the third round than he does in any of the other rounds. But he puts up such a good fight. That's like his more clear round. Because I had to recently rewatch this one. And it's the first round. And it's one of those ones, again, like talk about 2007 or 2009 as decisions. Of all the decisions that I listed, Fenyo, and write about this year, the common thread for a majority of them is that cage pushing against the cage was fucking rewarded. Which, again, in today's criteria, it's just ridiculous. Like Dana White specifically, like will flunk you, and he's always the matchmakers, Joe Silva to the new ones. Like everybody on all levels, the game disincentivizes against it.
Yeah.
Yet we saw it rewarded more often than not this
It's
year.
like
Again,
it's like they reward holding against defense more than top position on the ground.
yeah, and so again, it's not even so much a bad decision opinion or robbery opinion. It's like, no, out of principle, there were some really backwards ass fucking decisions in 2024. They're like just out of principle and criteria, backwards. And Gomes does some good counter work. And this is another annoying one where it's like extra annoying because I'm one of the guys who I'm like reward grappling more, reward counters and body work more, right? Counters and body work, of course, is a classic
Yeah,
one in bad decisions, right? And this
especially
is
in
another
Angela Hill fights.
yeah, and this was another one where the back foot, like, when does MMA reward the back foot fighter? When do they reward the body worker, the counter puncher, right? And Gomes is doing that the whole fight, and he's getting fucking rewarded for it.
Yeah,
And even like, and folks, it's not just me like generalizing. Like, we can go to specific judges, and I do this in the article. Like Ben Cartledge, considered one of the best to take the seat by myself and many. Well, when it comes to his questionable scorecards, I'll defend him picking Roundtree over Jacoby. I don't think that one was as controversial as people think, especially with the criteria. You
yeah,
know,
that was.
it was a
I
classic. It was
thought,
classic volume and then big shots, volume and then
yeah,
big shot.
that
Uh,
one you can score like either way super easily. Yeah,
but he was a judge on O'Malley versus Peter Yan, right? And you look at the swing round in that fight was round one, and one of the best shots of the whole, not just that round, but the whole fight was a Peter Yan body kick.
body kick. Yeah, it was great.
Was caught.
Was nasty. Yeah,
And I was also a part of the judges' meeting afterwards with Cartledge and as well as other judges and stuff and media members. And I listened to about 15 to 20 people give explanations on scoring that round, and none of the motherfuckers said the body kick, man.
no one mentions the body
None of
kick
them.
anyway. Because
So
you can see the reaction on O'Malley right after, so it was like
right.
it's not that hard to see.
And then even like going back to, I think it might have been a pre-2019 fight that Ben Cartledge did, was Alex Morono versus Keita Nakamura, and it was like very much like Martinez Uo, where Nakamura, and obviously there's more to the round than this, right? But it even with the context of the round, it was still a bad scorecard. But amongst the bad scorecard, you had a point where Nakamura hits Morono with a body kick, and Morono is literally, he goes at least half the octagon all the way back to the cage, huddled over, grabbing his stomach.
Clearly hurt. Yeah.
And Ben gives Morono the round.
No, that's insane.
And
Yeah.
you're just like, right? So what's the common culprit there, right? It's body work, right? And so and body kicks in particular. And here Gomes his main body work is his little point kick. That's what he's pointing with, right? He's pointing with his body kick. And I'm like, oh, of all times, Ben, you're gonna fucking score it.
Yeah. Now
you're
they
gonna score
care.
it.
Now they care about that one.
So fuck Tim Means, fuck Bobby Green, fuck Chris Curtis. William Gomes is the fighter to make veteran fucking judges go against this age-old trend against bodies and counter work. William Gomes is the guy to break through for us, Venyo. Can you believe it?
Pretty
oh my
much.
God.
Yeah.
How insulting is that shit? The guy in the most, by the way, it's weird because he only fought once this year, so it's hard to give him a 2024 award. But Venyo, I don't know about you. I mean, Ricci's hers recently got ended. Spoiler alert, right? We'll get to that fight. But between him and Renat, I think it's a 2-horse race. And I think William Gomes has the fakest fucking winning streak. He's got sketchy split in majority decisions. He has a low blow where he low blowed a guy and they call it a body KO.
He got that Bobby King versus James Krause TKO.
Yes, great sight. Yeah. And again, talking about like overvaluing his body kicks, like whether it's a body kick or not, they treat it like it's Jesus fucking Christ when Gomes throws it.
And
it's crazy.
And going back to
Sorry.
MMA's sketchy history, right? Because back when Bobby Green versus James Krause happened, that was refereed by Big John McCarthy.
Yes.
Bobby Green was like 5 months removed from training with Big John on that one. So, in the first place, why did you put them in the same cage?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And then Big John is like a fucking dick to James Krause in the fight.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. He's in cop mode. He's just like, I gotta stand by my decision. Like there's a bleeding suspect on the ground. He's like, no, standing by my decision.
Yeah.
And he actually and it's funny because it makes it even more dickish because Big John actually he's actually admitted after that he said that was the wrong call.
Yeah.
When everyone asks about is there a time when you can admit you were wrong, he usually actually points to that fight now. So
yeah. Okay, so UFC 307, Pereira versus Roundtree. it was a good fight, but we did not need this one, right? I love Roundtree, but he did not deserve the title fight. This is like
Yeah.
the UFC blue balling and Kalayev here.
Oh
uh,
my god.
it ended up being a good fight. I feel like some people were like super high on it. I didn't feel it that much. It was good, but I don't remember it that much. I wouldn't put it in the on the best fights of the year, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it was alright. Co-main event. I was super mad about the co-main event because I thought it was very clear that Raquel Pennington won that fight.
Yes.
And Juliana Pena gets the nod, of course, in a fight that she got
Spoil-
hurt. She got hurt like 3 times, by the way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, spoiler alert for my list that I keep referencing. This one made the cut. This was bad enough. We
Yeah,
can
this
agree.
one is what this one I'm very comfortable calling a robbery, to be honest. I know one of the rounds were close, but at the same time you should have given Pennington a 10-8 at one of those rounds.
And in my write up, I make the argument, Fenyo, that like I don't think it's fair to be like, oh, because it was a 1-round differential. How can you say it was a robbery, or how can you even say it was a bad decision if it was only 1 round? But part of me is like, you know what? Like, the blame needs to go to the proper place, and you can't take away blame of a bad scorecard. In my opinion, the correct thing to do is to add blame to the system. Meaning, the problem is why we can have a bad scorecard and there can only be 1 round. It's because we're going off of a dated fucking system from another sport.
Yep.
The 10-point must system. And not only that, does the system bad, splitting hairs within that system, we look at how much of a 10-9, and this is something the judges agree upon, why they're always brainstorming, but they do nothing. But you look at the latitude of a 10-9, right? Like, a 10-9 can be fucking a close round that you barely win, and a 10-9 can be something that me and Fenyo and most people with eyes will be like, that should be a 10-8.
Yeah.
But it like 9.99 times gets graded a 10-9. Or sometimes you lose the round and you get a 10-9. Like,
Yeah, I mean
10-9 covers way too much.
10-9 is
10-9
way.
covers way too
It's like
much.
I feel like you can make the 10 must system work, but to make it work you gotta use more points, right?
Yeah, you got to stop being a pussy about the 10-7. That's the one thing I always get mad at.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
whether it's like
any
the judges.
I feel like any round that has like a very clear winner that you cannot argue other way, that should be a 10-8. That should be the new standard.
Yes. Yeah, and then
And you save the 10-9s for close rounds. Like I would say that's the way to go.
Yeah, and then like the Bobby Green, Jim Miller round 2 or 3 or whatever, or the Josh.
That's a
Emmett
10-6 in my opinion. Yeah.
10-7. Yeah, but realistically for them, it's like that's when they use 10-7. But when you say 10-7, everybody in the know is so fucking snarky about it. Like, no, we don't use the sit down, little boy.
And there's like
we don't use that. There's like this weird fucking attitude. You're like, why the like? I get what you're saying, but like, why the fuck do we have it if we're not going to use it?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It makes and you gotta remember that in that 4th round between Pennington and Pena got hurt at the beginning of the round and then later got dropped. Like, how is that not a 10-8 round? Like.
And especially with not that it should work this way, but just by human nature, right? Like, if you're in a room full of 4 out of 10s, right? That 6 out of 10 starts to look like a 9 by comparison. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's right.
No. But especially in like fight where you have like super close rounds, you gotta make the big round like count more than the other ones, right? Yeah.
Right, or how did it not ring truer with the judges? To your point, right? Because I just rewatched this fight, and it wasn't the most active or entertaining fight. So when you have one round that really stands out, right? You know, it's even more surprising that nobody, got their big boy balls and put them on the table to do their job. For God forbid.
Yeah, but at the same time, we know that Dana got like very very pissy about. The 10-8s when they became common. He hates them because he doesn't want to see a draw for any reason ever. So he's like, that all the judges are thinking about like the red tomato telling them about no 10-8s, okay? Oh, for fuck's sake! Shout out to Chris
Poor
Reedy, by the
Chris.
way, that always
Poor
draws
Chris.
Dana as a red tomato.
Yes, Chris the man.
Chris is the man, yeah.
And last thing I'll say about this fight, the round one was the swing round, I believe, on paper though, and that was just the classic. Take a shot, my boys in the chat. That was just like your classic Mackenzie Dern and Tisha Torres, where it was in the sense of like the big sloppy headhunter was the one that won, even though it was slop shots that weren't landing clean or landing at all.
Exactly.
It was like, because even the commentary is like, Juliana Pena has not thrown a single strike that hasn't been to the head. And she's just throwing her slop and stuff, right? Like she actually has a better left hand, and she actually was really effective at that, like to start the round, like with her dipping jab and dipping it into a hook. Like she actually starts the round pretty good off that. But then she just ends up in a Juliana slop, and she's getting like, debased with leg kicks, hit with body, and like there was actually less countering than I remembered from Pennington. Pennington's actually on the front foot, which is surprising. But again, she's making the mistake of working the body and legs, and apparently that's not effective striking. Even though she was the one actually getting Pena to wince, change position,
she hurt
debase her stance,
with
retreat.
The body kicks. She hurt her with body kicks quite a few times actually. Like it was
classic. Yep. And that's why I say, I'm like, when you're watching fights, it's not about, and I haven't put in the explanation, I go, if you want to know who wins the exchange, don't go by who throws the most dazzly thing that makes Rogan go, oh,
and if you
don't go by
commentary were talking about Juliana's jab because she was like super active with it and she was stepping in it. But if I remember right, like she was landing like on the forehead most of the time, and it doesn't help that Rocky has a huge forehead. But she was landing on the forehead a lot, and she was landing at the very end of her reach. And if you go back and watch the Rocky's jab, she was like snapping her head back. She was not landing as often, but you can tell that the jabs from Pennington were a lot more impactful, and you gotta score that accordingly. So I feel like
absolutely.
I feel like some judges go just by volume, and it's just like those dorks that score fights based on like the significant strikes showed on screen. Like it doesn't make any sense. Other than that, we had Mario Bautista becoming public number one enemy against because of his win against Jose Aldo. No one liked that decision, and to be honest, like bad decision. Like Bautista on that. I understand Bautista round 1, but round 3, like he was not doing shit, and he got hurt. He got hit. Excuse me. At the beginning of the round, he got hit good, and then he was like exclusively holding. He was not even landing his small knees, small hammer fist. He was just holding, and he got rewarded.
So this one, Fenya, this one did make my cut. For I don't use the word robberies. That's more sensationalist title for the article and theme, but it essentially made my cut of bad decisions. Right. That being said, I wrote that it was probably if I had to split hairs, not that I ranked them, but if I had to split hairs, it was probably the least egregious,
the least bad, yeah.
But of the worst ones though.
Yeah.
Not of all.
Of course.
Of the worst, if that makes sense, and. I felt like Bautista was doing a better job than other cage pushers as far as like trying to sell some strikes, because he would like do like a quick combination, punch, kick, dip, right? And then the ref would break him up because he wasn't doing shit. And then he'd be like punch, kick. And then kind of, so even though like it wasn't fooling a lot of us, it was like I'm like, oh shit, Jose is going to lose this. He's going to get bullshitted out of it if he doesn't. And it was one of those classic ones where 2 points. One, where they're overvaluing the knees from the outside person. And Bautista didn't do much. All he did was like really weak ass knees to the thigh, which was annoying because like that's such a stall move. And just rewind just 1 second to the Brito versus Gomes decision. Like when Gomes is getting when Brito is getting Gomes in those positions where he's got the rear waist cinch against the fence. He's throwing some of the most powerful knees I've ever seen to the thigh.
He was landing nasty knees, yeah.
Like I was like, shoot. I'm like, though when I saw those, I'm like, oh, see all the pitter patter shit that we complain about getting scored. That's what you score right there, baby. That's what you score. Little did I know that he wasn't scoring somehow. Anyways, but back to this fight. it was kind of ironic that they're scoring again. They're heavily scoring Bautista's pitter patter shit, right? Where Fenyo, I know you're on board with this. We talked about it with I think Adesanya and Pereira, their second to last fight,
Yeah.
which their first MMA fight or whatever.
Yeah.
But people constantly underrate knees to the body, not just knees to the body, but knees to the body from the fighter with their back to the
Yeah.
fence.
Yeah. Pereira was
about that.
Pereira was landing nasty ones in that fight. Yeah.
But the way the leverage works out, like you think like, oh, you're pushing in the direction. They must have leverage to knee the person pushing against the fence. Like, but in a weird way, when you're bridged out, you're extended.
Yeah.
Or you're
It
you're
depends.
vulnerable to the body there, and the weight can be pushing actually into that body.
Yeah, and it depends a lot in the positions, right? Because sometimes someone is
Yes.
driving into you and you have like a lot of space to open up your hips for a good knee in those positions. So
Yeah.
other than that, we had Dolitza versus Holland. Holland got injured, I think. I don't know. He got fucked up. Kyla Harrison versus Caitlin Vieira.
Yeah.
Caitlin Vieira exposing some of the limitations from Kyla Harrison, but at the same time, Kyla Harrison showing that she's like a beast of an athlete at 135. She's very scary.
I was real quick. I was happy with that one because it was one of those where I predicted it to be I picked Harrison, but I said it's going to be way closer because I think shouts to the heavy hands guys or Jack Slack. They seem like the podcast that do like some kind of bad fight IQ kind of award, right? And I feel like Holly Holm like made Harrison look way better than she needed to in her fight with her.
Yeah.
We kind of glossed over it, but
I mean, we know Vieira
it was god awful. It was or not Vieira, Kayla Harrison. Like it was god awful fight IQ, and I think that's why you saw the Ronda Rousey odds against Caitlin Vieira, and it ended up being a much closer fight.
The odds were so bad because you could see that Vieira had the tools, and she was like a very few like decision making moments away from winning that fight. To be honest, like I can see in a good night like Vieira beating Harrison. To be honest, like I don't think.
Yeah, round two there was an opening for a momentum swing, right? Round two, there was an opening for.
Especially because she was able to compete inside the clinch. That's something that a lot of people did not see going into the fight. But Vieira is like a legit judo black belt. Obviously not at the level of Harrison. But sometimes like understanding what's going on in those like deeper exchanges can make you compete a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Buckley got like a completely fraudulent win against the Karate Kid, man, because Thompson was winning that fight like 100%, man. And he just, it wasn't even like a clever setup or anything. He just got killed, man.
The fence has not been Thompson's friend as his cage is gone. Whether he's bouncing off it, whether Pettis is bouncing off it, like the fucking cage just fucking hates Stephen Thompson.
Yeah. What else we had? Yasmin Lucindo got a win over Marina Rodriguez, and that one was kind of sketchy, right?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Like she got hurt, and then she got a takedown, and she got that round. That's always like weird to see. But Marina, man, still with the bad decision making. I feel like Marina is not living up to her potential, and she's getting old, so she better put it together because it might be too late.
Yeah.
And then we had Cesar Almeida defeating the duelist Ihor with a lot of help of the referee, man, because
that was bad.
The duelist got fault with everything under the sun, and he was not even getting a break, let alone point deductions, man. That was awful, man. That was so bad.
Oh man.
He was getting kicked in the nuts, he was getting eye poked, and he was not getting even a break, man.
He reminds me of Boris, or not Boris, Sergey from The Wire. He's like, Boris, why always Boris? They're both Ukrainian as well, so that actually works.
It actually works, yeah. After that, we had Royval versus Tyra, and I was like losing faith on Royval being a good fighter, to be honest, because I don't think he looked great against Pantoja, but he looked better against Pantoja than he did winning against Moreno because he looked so bad in that one.
Yes.
But then he looked great here against Tyra, man. Great performance by Royval. I wouldn't
Really fun
pick
fight.
it. I wouldn't pick it, but was one of the best fights of the year. Was very fun fight, man.
Same.
That
Same
was
fun
great.
fight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very good. The Iron Turtle for Brad Tavares. Um, I missed parts of that fight live. Do you agree with the decision in that one?
Turtle Tavares. I mean, I'm probably too biased either way, but I can't even remember the result, man. Now to be honest, what was we had wrong event, I think. So that one, there we go. Yeah, I don't know. I think I remember thinking that Park was going to get it, and I was actually surprised that it was split.
No, okay.
But I think I remember that it was like one of those things where it's just like there was a certain point, and it's like, come on, just throw a little more, Brad. Kind of easier said than done, and it was Turtle's jab. I remember being much more effective than I thought it would be, because again, it wasn't that I didn't think John Young Park had a good jab, but it was like. He wasn't jabbing against anybody who was a good jabber. He never fought any good jabbers.
Yeah, he was like a
good...
Jeff Barrett in this one.
Right. And you know how those are, right? Where it's just like, especially in a division like middleweight, you get tricked easily, right? Where you're like, okay, how good is this guy at this? Or has he just never met somebody that can do X, right?
Yeah.
And then not only the jabs, but what's the counter to the jabs? Leg kicks. I'm like, Tavares is one of the more consistent leg kickers in the division. So I was like, oh, and he can shut down the takedowns and Park, whether his jab's going good or not, he kind of needs the takedown as the crux. I'm like, let me go Tavares here. But even with all that bias in there, I felt like the right guy won. So I don't know.
Yeah. Especially because that third round was very dominant by
yes.
Iron Turtle. Yeah. We had two like standout grappling performances here. Grant Dawson. Especially because he was fighting, both guys were fighting fellow grapplers here. Grant Dawson for Rafa Garcia. Very dominant performance, very aggressive with ground and pound on the ground. And he was looking good on the feet too, so good for Grant Dawson, man.
Yep.
And Pat Sabatini, man.
Patty Sabs.
Yeah, submitting Jonathan Pierce is no joke, man. So that was impressive, man.
Just took his back like, reminded me of like, what was it, like prime Uriah Faber.
Yeah, it was like during the transition of the takedown. Yeah, it was like cool stuff, man.
I was like climbing up on there and it's really good.
We have Fluffy versus Pereira on.
He finally gets the main event.
You should not, but yeah, very cool that it was a main event. But man, putting Fluffy on the Apex should be a crime, right? And I say that as someone that used to love the Apex, but I liked the Apex when it was like completely empty. I thought those were very cool. Now that the Apex is a few rich guys, I feel like super lame.
Yeah, but stylistically, I think it's great for Fluffy though. The small cage.
Oh yeah.
It's great for his style.
Yeah, it was like a scary first round, and then it was like brutalizing from Fluffy, man. Brutalizing from Fluffy.
Run away.
Rough Font getting that victory against Skylar Phillips felt so good, man. That was so good.
Oh, yeah. You know who I was thinking? I was thinking of the next guy for under the radar fighters, but I'm not going to give it to him after a
certain comment.
his anti-Asian comments over there, Charles Johnson.
No, but Charles Johnson had a great year, man.
He really did. He's fine. All serious, he's doing what like a lot of us wanted and thought when he came in. He's finally putting it together.
Yeah. To me, it looked like he was never going to turn into this fighter, but he did. So good for him, man.
But it sucked because it's just this is like another classic. And again, I know we always complain about matchmaking, this or that, and I don't want to be like super negative. I'll save all that for the end, I guess, of what like my overall thoughts. But I feel like the matchmaking was extra bad this year, not just because of the rematches that I've been calling out since 2022, but you have matches like that make no fucking sense, like Charles Johnson versus Sumiderji. Like Charles Johnson's finally on his upswing, and you got Sumiderji, who was like 0-3, but he's still an exciting guy.
Yeah, no, and it's also like a complicated matchup. It's
he looked good in the loss though too, so it was like
heartbreaking. Yeah, no, so Sumiderji is like a bad matchup for Johnson. I mean, not a bad matchup, but it was going to be a competitive fight. So
Yeah.
why do you make him fight below his ranking, but also like a super hard fight? Like you're not giving him even like the chance to shine against an easier opponent. So it's like double
Yeah.
rough. Yeah.
Yeah, you do be fucking both dudes in that perspective. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, for sure.
yeah, because
Yeah.
you're giving Sumaderji a chance in between quotes, but it's like a super hard fight, and then Johnson
Yeah.
wins, but doesn't look super impressive, and he was coming off like great wins, so no,
Yeah.
I feel like no one won after this fight.
Yeah, very trappy, very trappy.
Yeah, that was bad matchmaking. It was a good fight, but it didn't make sense for either guy, to be honest.
Yeah.
Cameron Smotherman, who is like a training partner of one of my guys, Trayvon, he had a
Nice.
fantastic debut in the UFC. Finally,
Dude, that was really good. Yeah, that was awesome.
he looked very good. Darren Elkins versus Daniel Pineda was one of the best old man fights of the year, man. That one was
I
great.
hope they got fight of the night or something for that one.
They
Pretty
did.
sure they did.
They did, yeah.
Okay.
So after that we had Topuria versus Holloway. This one was huge, right? And with this, I'm going to spoil right off the bat. After this finish, Topuria cements himself as the fighter of the year for me. Like no questions asked.
Same.
Like Poatan could have gotten like 10 more knockouts. I don't give a shit. Like you finish Volkanovski and Holloway the same year, and it's over for the rest of the guys, man.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic and great fight. One of the
Same.
best fights of the year, even though it was like kind of short, like less than 2.5 rounds, but it was fantastic fight as long as it lasted.
It was.
It was
It
so
was,
fucking
yeah.
good. Yeah, it was so fucking good. Topuria looking fantastic. Holloway looked very good too. He was making good
Yes.
adjustments, but it was a game of inches, so it was great. Great knockout too. Great knockout. One of the knockouts of the year as well. Co-main event: Chimaev versus Whitaker. If you want to go for like a brutal submission, this one should be in the running for submission of the year. And Chimaev showing a more mature game, in my opinion, in this one. Not using that much energy, going for the huge mat returns. He was being a bit more conservative, trapping the legs, playing the changeup between like the high crush and the body lock. Very efficient with the takedown. So I thought Whitaker did not approach this fight very well, but I thought she might have looked great here. And I say this one as someone that has been like somewhat of a Shimaev hater over the years, but I was very impressed with this one, man.
I was gonna say I must be still hating Pena because I was gonna ask you like, this was one that was on the list for submission of the year, and this was one that stuck out to me where I was like, really? I know I'm the guy who got the take where I was like, God, I had to separate myself because of course I'm like I said anti-chip. Like, did we really learn anything? I'm like, of course, that's what fucking junkie clips out.
No, yeah.
To, like,
it didn't give
us from all the haters, but
it didn't give us a lot more, right? And I don't think, and the only thing that makes me like not go super high on this one is that I feel like Whitaker did not approach this one the right way. So it gave Chimaev his own fight. So it is hard to give him like too much credit when he got exactly what he wanted. But I still think he showed some improvements. The submission in itself, I think it was more of a Whitaker fucked up. But it has the X factor that he broke his fucking jaws.
Yeah, but then also it's like, even though I don't like this move, right? It's like, because it takes away from the winner when you say, oh, I was injured going in it. But it was a specific like history to that, and I feel like that takes away the coolness too.
Yeah, for sure.
But then it doesn't. But yet, it also makes me question it more because I'm like, wait a minute, that information is out there. So are people still choosing to believe? Like, no, it was Dagestani muscle man.
Oh no, of course.
That break the jaw. Dagestani muscle man break everything. Give it to Chimaev. Yeah, I don't know if I'm just, that's just the voice I'm hearing because I'm a hater, But like, I do feel like there is a lot of that out there still, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I agree. Before that, we had Ankalaev versus Rakic. A lot of people hated on this fight. And I don't know, I think like the hate for Ankalaev is so insane that I'm turning into I'm turning into a fan of the guy, man. I thought Ankalaev here looked pretty good. And Rakic like gave him nothing to work with in the last 2 rounds. He was like just moving on the outside the whole time. I don't even understand where the judges found that round to give to Rakic. To me, it was like a 30-27 for Ankalaev. I understand first round was kind of low activity, but I still think Ankalaev was landing the better shots. And he was like just outboxing him every time that they went into exchanges. He was landing the harder leg kicks. So I don't know. I don't hate Ankalaev. You guys made me into the Ankalaev fan.
So Ankalaev reminds me of a drummer of my band, my old buddy Cameron. Where like he was consistent, like he was always like there, right? But then people always would just hate on him and make fun of him. He did have kind of a goofy Dagestani haircut, kind of like Ankalaev, which is funny in comparison. He dressed up for Halloween one time, Fenyo, as are you familiar with the term white trash?
Yeah, for sure.
Say here in America.
Yeah.
So he dressed up as a redneck or white trash, and for Halloween, and it was really embarrassing because nobody knew that he dressed up. Like, hey, why didn't Cameron dress up? And so it became
oh my god, no!
And you have to like what? And they're like, okay, and then people would go to like, oh, Cameron, did you not have time to dress up? And you'd see him, he was very serious. He'd take himself very literally, like, and he was like, what do you mean? No, I dressed up. And then he'd explain it, and you'd see the people go, oh yeah, cool, yeah. And like, here's how he was like Ankalaev though, because he would like drum at like a crazy BPM, a crazy like, we call him like Animal from the Muppet Babies. He'd just drum at a crazy beat per minute. And people that don't know music, the drummer sets the tone. So if the drummer's going off the hook, everybody else has to fucking speed up. But he was very like, he took things very literal, maybe a little sensitive too, right? So we would just be careful how we said things to him. So we'd be like, we try to incentivize him, right? To try to play differently, right? Kind of like what the UFC's do with Ankalaev. We'd be like, hey, I think it really sounded great when you were, can you try that at a slower BPM? No, we know what it sounds like fast. We know you kill that, bro. But can we just hear it like slower real quick? Because you sounded great with that. Like he's a 4-year-old, And then we get him to play slower, and we realize that like when you got him to play slower, even closer to the range of BPM, his rhythm would fall apart.
Oh, he needed to play faster.
It sounded even fucking worse. And we're like, what did we ask for? Holy shit. And that's what I feel like is Ankalaev. Sorry, long-winded, but that's what I feel exactly is Ankalaev, where it's just like, he's like, oh, you want me to strike? Striking is an exciting fight? Oh, watch this. It's just like,
yeah, I feel like
takes it literally. He's like, wait, because he was defending it afterwards. He was like, no, this is what the UFC wanted, right? This is what they wanted.
But at the same time, I feel like Ankalaev is like baiting the UFC because he's like, see, I fought this striker and I did not take him down, so I'm not going to take down Pereira.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So when the UFC said that they had like better plans for Danige, the plans were making him lose against Lerone Murphy. They fucked him over, man.
Hey, you know what? I'm surprised. I don't want to jump ahead, but I know we should push on. But I don't think I remember seeing Shitmadov's double spinning back fist of Petrosian. I'm surprised that would be a shoo-in for everybody, right? When they
man,
right?
if you go by the knockout in itself, you like ignore like the setups and the stakes of the fight. This one is one of the best ones of the year, man.
Yeah, right.
And I say that as a Shara Bullet hater. This knockout was fucking fantastic, man. That was crazy.
Like I wouldn't have picked it over Holloway Gaethje, obviously, but like this, I'm surprised this isn't on like the short list though, right? Like it's definitely deserving to be on the short list.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like some people in our sphere, like more snobbish sphere, are getting like the hate too over the top because that knockout was great, right? It was like double spinning back fist, like are you kidding me? And that fight, to be honest, that fight was good. Like it was a cool fight before the finish too. Petrosian was winning, but not super wide. I thought that fight was pretty cool, to be honest. And the finish was great. The finish was great. You just gotta give it to Shara Bullet, man.
Yeah, I hate to admit it. He's looking better than I thought. We'll see how good he is.
Yeah, because Petrosian was doing like the things that you would think that would be very annoying for Shara Bullet. And Shara Bullet was holding his own. I don't think he was winning necessarily. but he was fighting a good fight. He was like landing counters. He looked very improved in my opinion. Like,
And just the fact that he wasn't discouraged, which is, surprising enough, because we've seen how many times where people can look good in whatever phase, but at a certain point they fold, right? They've
yeah.
been crushing cans.
And to be honest, one thing though, Petrosian being a bad finisher, biting him in the ass because he hurt Charabulet super bad on the first round,
Yes.
and he didn't
Oh,
know
yeah.
how to close the deal at all. And then on
No.
the other hand, you had Charabulet who has that like finish factor that can come out like at any moment.
Before you move on from this card, you got to talk about the first fight of the night for 308. Before you move, I don't know if this.
Renat versus
Yeah, that was one of the worst decisions I thought this year for sure of all of them.
I think it was like I think the rounds were close. Like it wasn't like Carlos Leal was like running away with it like super, but it's still like I cannot find myself scoring those rounds for Renat. They were close, but it was like very clear that it was like a Leal round. The third round I thought like Renat maybe won, but the first two it's like very rough. Like
Yeah, I thought 30-27, same, and then I still thought 30-27 Leal is a more acceptable scorecard than
29-28 for Renat.
Yeah, but it was optics. Like Jose's optics was more inactivity and being tired looking. We've seen bite a lot of fighters in the ass if you look like you're exhausted. Whereas Leal's, he was feeling a bit tired, like by the third, but it's the fact that he had that low-handed style and he was shoulder rolling shots, and we know judges don't care about that. So even though it was like light shots that weren't really doing much, and he was rolling with them, people are like, oh well, he's scoring, and then like, by that sense, it was close rounds. But if you look at like none of those shots, not only did they not look like they affected Leal, but Leal would win the next exchange right after that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, again, that's back to my ranting about how to grade exchanges. You need to look at how people are affected. That's going to tell you who's winning the exchange.
It wasn't on until the third round that Renat started like landing shots that they were looking like they were hurting. Yeah. Yes. And even then in that third round, Leal was still hurting him back. So it was very close. I feel like that third round you can go either way. But the first two, even though like Renat was working hard and was making him tired, like you gotta go with the damage and the impact of the shots, man.
It's like you can see why, like whether it's Muay Thai or Dutch style kickboxing, there's a bred mentality of when you get hit to hit back, right?
Yeah.
Because if you actually know what you're looking at, you know how to judge, you know the criteria, and you are taking the time to actually do it. And Fenyo, I know you've done this too, rewatching fights. Like you'll find like it's hard to score a round against somebody when they're constantly getting the shot back, because you're like, ooh, he got hit. That's a point for this side. But then when he answers back, it's like, okay,
especially
how hurt was he, and how much ahead can this guy really get if he's getting answered every time?
And like, obviously, there's nothing about this in the score criteria, but like the people that gets the last word in the exchange. That's always remains in your mind. Like it's different from the like. Sometimes judges, you feel like they only score the last minute of a round, and that's obviously stupid. But when it comes to exchange, I feel like there's some importance that you gotta give to the guy that is having the last word, because if you're like losing the exchange, you don't have the chance to have the last word, because if you're getting hurt by a shot, you're not going to be able to counter effectively. But if you're like constantly landing the last shot of an exchange, it's like you are there and you are landing your shots, so there's something to that. And I felt like, you're right. You're right. Even though Renat was working hard, Leal was answering every time. So, but
of course you had the we already touched on it, Rebecca Oral by the Damage Fest 2024.
That fight was insane, man. Rambetsky versus Orlby, disgusting fight, man. That was. Both guys were a mess after that fight, man. A very, very good bounce back by Rambetsky, especially because Orlby undefeated, very tough. But he was a bad matchup, because he could grapple with him. He was the most comfortable. Maybe not the cleaner mechanically striker of the two because he's a bit wild, Rambetsky. But you can tell
Yeah.
the more experienced kickboxer, and it showed when the fight went late.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
much damage both ways though. That was insane.
You know what I was gonna say earlier? Both guys are like a walking continue screen. You know, continue.
Yeah,
Hey,
when
the
the
fighter, they're all bloody. Put the quarter.
it looked like that. Yeah.
Like Darren Elkin style, they're just constantly fucked up. Continue.
After that, we had Moreno versus Albasi. I got a lot of hate for saying that I didn't think Moreno looked that good because Albasi didn't do much. I mean, Moreno looked alright. He didn't look bad. But this is not the performance that tells to me like, oh, he needs yet another title shot. Like, no, he had enough title shots in my opinion. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
Let
him gatekeep with his.
And Albasi coming from super long layoff, neck surgery, I think. So he was not throwing. So I don't know, man. I would be a lot more impressive if Moreno decided to finish him, which he didn't. He had him hurt
same.
a lot of time, and he didn't want to go for the finish. It was weird. I was more impressive, to be honest, with the co-main event because Erin Blanchfield fought exactly the fight that she needed to fight in this here.
Mm-hmm.
She dogged it out. She started having the last word during the exchanges, going back to what we were just talking about. And she was not giving anything for Rose to Rose for free, even though you can tell that Rose, the superior like mechanical boxer. But Erin Blanchfield, I thought she was approaching the fight the right way, and she fought like the long fight, and she won the long fight. It was very impressive, to be honest.
I was, yeah. Real quick, I just want to say I see Jasmine Jazz Divisius on here. She was like a low key fighter for like maybe an honorable mention for like under the radar just for her division or whatever because she's quietly put together a winning streak. But this sounds so mean, Fenyo, and I'll try to like make it as little as mean as possible. But like, if you want to see me like shoot myself just over like people talking, driving me crazy, like put Jasmine Jazdavicius and Brad Katona in a room together, I would fucking like smash my head into the car window like until I just can't. Like I feel like one of those zombies from the Will Smith movie, like until I just die because like holy crap, like you ever like are some voices just annoying to you? Like what's I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I feel you because I feel like Jasmine is like a nice girl, but when she tries to go into promo mode after the wins, oh my god.
I just think that she maybe shy.
Oh man, yeah, maybe anti-Canadian discrimination is right.
Guys,
I mean, they have Jasmine, they have Katona, and they have Ryan Wagner, so maybe it's okay to hate on them.
I think she's. To be fair, I think she's like Lithuanian, and then Brad Katona like spent some time in Ireland that fucked him up, right? So basically, I think it's whenever you mix like the Canadian accent's fine, but when you mix the Canadian accent with some other ethnic white, oh god, you get like horrid combination.
You get the worst, yeah.
It's like inbreeding. It's like inbreeding the white dialects. You can't inbreed the dialect. You gotta mix it up. Sorry. Race signs. Sorry.
Shout out to another disgusting fight because I've been shouting out these bad fights. Mike Malott versus Trevin Giles. Oh my god, that was disgusting, man.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, it delivered in the sense that you could tell it was going to be gross on paper. In that sense, it arguably delivered, right? Because
it's like
I was like, why would you open the fight card with this fight? What the fuck? Why'd you make that your main card opener?
It's weird because they are not like the jank weight in the classic sense because they don't look like super janky striking. But this was such a jank fest of a fight, man. It was like one guy just throwing hands against one guy just throwing kicks. It was awful, man.
By the way, jank weight title, we'll get to it, but it's in remission right now.
Okay.
I would argue. Because some janky guy is going to knock off who currently has it, even though he's not a jank weight. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Shout out to Charger Dame making a successful bantamweight debut against Victor Henry. He looked very good in that one.
Jesus. Another guy. What's up with the minus Charles Oliveira? Like I I cannot bet fighters named Charles anymore. They're like the most Charles Johnson
Inconsistent
and
guys,
Charles
yeah.
Jourdain are the most inconsistent fucking fighters. Holy shit. They look like Jesus Christ one night and then they look like fucking Joe Schmo the other. I don't know.
Oh, a decision that even the fighter that won didn't agree, but it was a cool fight, was Seri City against Garrett Armfield. That was a cool fight, but not even City thought he won that fight, man.
Yeah, and then like not that it matters or has to do with anything, but then like Armfield, I think people were saying, "Well, it's okay because Armfield shouldn't have won his other one because it was one of those another rare fight where like they actually gave the guy working the body
Yeah.
and countering on the outside in that fight versus Katona."
No, yeah, Armfield won that fight against Katana like 100%.
Yeah, it wasn't like a bad decision, but it was just weird in the sense of like maybe because they were in Canada too, you really didn't expect them to actually
Yeah.
like the guy working the outside. You're like, oh shit, they actually did. But yeah, he did not get favorable judging against Siri City. No.
Then we were back at the Apex. It was Prates versus Magni, and Magni
Yep.
got slept, man. Like Prates bringing the heat when it came to knockouts this year, man. That's a nasty
Yeah.
dude, man. Those cigars, man, are doing the work.
Oh man, I love this guy, the Southpaw baby.
Yeah, Prates is cool, man. Renier de Rider make his UFC debut against our guy Mirshak, and it
Yeah,
was
that bummed me out a bit.
yeah, man. It was like Mirshak getting tired, being old more than anything. it was
Getting stung on the feet by him, like what the fuck?
it was a sketchy ass fight, man.
Yeah, it was janky too.
Yeah, not a lot other than that, man.
Nope.
Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos just getting a guy that has no place in the UFC and just like nuking him.
Easy sacrifice hour, baby.
Yeah, I don't know why Zaleski's just either on the craziest wars of all time, or he's just like murdering a guy behind the yard, man.
And Mansour Abdul Malik, the newest fighter to make that will probably Joe Rogan will probably ogle over on the weigh-in scale.
Oh yeah, he goes crazy. Over
He's a
those.
monster. He's a monster, Mansour though. That's the
Yeah,
guy that's
yeah.
watch out for though, for real though. I'm just saying he's a Joe Rogan favorite fighter though for sure though too. You know.
Yeah, he's very
He's-
he's very explosive and athletic. Let's put it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Rogan be like, this guy just look at him. He's got everything. He threw a little more leg kicks.
Oh, yeah.
Classic Rogan.
It's always
That's always his prescription.
yeah. Then we had our next pay per view. Was Jones versus Miocic, and it was as depressing as it sounded on paper, man. That
Holy
fucking
fuck,
sucked,
dude.
man. It just looked pretty alright, but hard to tell how decent he looked because Miocic was not there, man. He looked so bad. So
Yeah,
bad,
it was
so
real bad.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was
And not
washed
not
up.
only he looked bad physically, but he came with like zero ideas with how to deal with the matchup too. So
See, he needed to get Magomed Ankalaev to shave his beard and fight for him.
Yeah.
Is what he needed for
yeah,
this fight, man.
that's exactly
well,
what he
way
needed.
better.
Yeah, he would
Way
have done
better
better.
chance.
Yeah. Co-main event saw Charles Oliveira just going freestyle on Michael Chandler's ass for 4.5 rounds, and then Charles Oliveira being Charles Oliveira getting like fucking hit in the head hard. It was such a silly fight, but Oliveira looked very good for most of it. So
Especially that he was injured, you know. I
yeah,
think kind of
and
right there, but
he looked like out of shape for his standards too. Like he was looking like kind of chubby in there, but
it is weird though too, just to see him go to decision twice in a winning and losing effort, where like not finishing is what cost him, and it's not like he's a Armin Petrosian where he can't finish. Like he is a finisher, so when he doesn't get the finish, whether he wins or loses, you see it really makes his fights extra sketchy.
yeah. And of course they had to put Bo Nickel here because like
Oh
because
Jesus!
fuck us, right?
Steve
Oh,
Cameron, boot
and
straps.
but we have someone more interesting than Bo Nickel, and what's the last name of this girl, Viviane?
Which guy? Which one?
This girl, Viviane. Let's go!
Show. Yeah, that's right.
And Araujo looked pretty good here. I thought she was done, to be
Came up from
honest.
the wire. Yeah.
Oh, and now we have another contender for fight of the year. Mauricio Hufi versus John Top. That fight fucking ruled, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was.
that was good,
Yeah, frustrating moment of the year. Jonathan Martinez deciding to not win against Marcus McGee, man. Oh man, that sucked.
dude.
Not that
That's why
I like McGee, but that was so frustrating by Martinez, man.
it is, man. I mean, I'm a Martinez guy, and he had a really frustrating year. Like I picked him for my under the radar last year. It was a good pick going in because you're like, wow, if he can get a win over an aging Aldo, like that could be huge for him,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it went downhill all from there, right?
It was supposed to
So
be
yeah, that was
his like
frustrating.
Frankie Edgar versus Gutierrez moment. And to be fair, like Gutierrez had that moment, and he also didn't capitalize on it. So.
Yeah, so who knows? They're just wasting bodies out here. But Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson was a fight that made sense.
Oh yeah,
And
and Jim Miller, the fucking man.
yeah, it ended on a positive note, baby. I mean, as a can't choked out Walt Goggins from the Shield.
Oh my god. Onama
Yeah,
versus Roberto Romero was great too. That was a sick fight
yeah.
too. That one was
Oh, no,
good.
it was wonderful fights.
Yeah, and then Jonathan Diniz was looking like he was going to be a guy at heavyweight, and no, because he cannot grapple at all. Ah,
Heavyweight,
fucking
baby,
oh yeah.
classic.
So Marcin Tibura keeps getting wins, man.
Yep.
And then Mickey Gall and Basil Hafez had like a very fun fight, and then they didn't wait a lot after both being clearly concussed after their fight, and both show up in this pay per view, and both guys got like flatlined. So that was something.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Hey, so Fenyo, man, I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and give out a card of the year or whatever, but like I thought it was maybe recency bias, but is low key the next card that we're gonna talk about one of the best cards of the year, low key?
Oh man. Oh, so next one we went to China for Yan versus Figueredo, and this one was awesome, man. That main event.
Unexpected, like the top to bottom though was unexpected
Oh,
match.
that main event, pure Yan versus Davis and Figueredo.
Oh, great,
I was
great,
like,
yeah.
I was like excited, but I was like, oh no way, this is going to be as good as I want it to be, and
Same, yeah,
it
same.
ended up being as good as I wanted it to be. So that
Me
was
too. I almost didn't believe it because I knew I was so especially me, right? Like I'm biased going in. I'm the motherfucker that's been calling for this fight for like over half a decade.
yeah,
I've been right, like publicly calling for this fight. So if anybody, especially with my history of this sport, I was like, did I fucking jinx this fight? This shit ain't gonna deliver. like this shit is done. Like so, I kind of had even more of a dramatic but same version of your thoughts. And then it was great, man. Like again, there was no way that stylistically, even in more advanced stages of their career, there is no way that they don't just match up great,
yeah,
together.
for sure a contender for fight of the year too. Another one that's very good.
Yep, absolutely.
Even though we on the official scorecards it was a sweep for Pierre Yan, it was a hard fought fight, man. He had to fight
But
for
it
the
felt more,
victory.
but it felt more competitive and more deserving of being on that list than like a Max versus Gaethje, though, right? At the
Oh
same
yeah,
time,
for
even though
sure,
it was dominant,
for
right?
sure,
So
yeah. It felt
it had that back and forth.
because yeah, I mean I don't feel like I feel like it never looked like Gaethje was turning around the tide, in my opinion. But when Figueredo got his moments, I was like, oh fucking shit.
Right, because we've seen his power already translate, so it wasn't a question, we're not getting like hyperbolic like Rogan, like, oh, he's rocked with Max, where
Yeah.
you're just like, shut up, Max isn't rocked, until he fought Taporia, of course. But
And co-main event was like designed for us, right? Because
yeah,
like Yan Xiaonan just styled on Tabata Ricci.
spanked
Tabata
her.
Ricci had nothing for her. And Yan Xiaonan here looked very improved with better footwork, very good shot selection, and some swag too.
Yeah, did she essentially pull? I mean, don't get too horny, guys. But she essentially pulled down Tabitha Ricci's pants and spanked her in the middle of the octagon. That's basic, right? That's basically what happened. She gave
Yeah,
her a spanking.
that was great performance. That was
I was watching Feño on the live stream, folks, and like you guys were probably watching. Yeah, you guys remember chat? Remember how excited Fenyo was? He was like a kid on Christmas. It was so great
I
watching
was so happy watching that. Yeah. Most were giving like not giving a single shit about that fight, but for me that was Christmas, man.
Yeah, like I'm like when the Figueiredo Yan was announced, I was like, nobody enjoys this more than me. And then when this fight was going on, Fenyo was like, nobody's enjoying this more than me.
Oh, it was so good. Yeah.
Uh,
Salikov, man, with the spinning hook kick against Sankinan, man. Oh, the king
wow.
of kung fu.
That's a. I mean, again, I'm not saying that would. I definitely wouldn't pick that over Max. But again, I would. I would feel like this is.
Oh,
I
that
wouldn't be
was
crazy. Like if you put that on contender
that one was
list, right?
clean, man. Yeah, that was one of the best knockouts of the year. And
Yeah.
and one of the comebacks of the year because Wang Kong was putting
Yes.
on a clinic on Gabriela Fernandez,
Yes.
and then Wang Kong tried to get cute with the high kick catch.
Yeah.
She misread, get kicks in the head, gets the straight left on her face, and man, Gabriela Fernandez with the rear naked choke, that was crazy, man.
The Southpaw. Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
You gotta bet the big women underdogs in MMA just out of principle at this point. You know.
And before that, we had Carlos Ulberg, which I've been a hater just because he lost that fight against Nseshiku, and Nseshiku looking like shit in that fight and still winning. But
Yeah.
I gotta say, man, Carlos Ulberg legit, man. This
Yeah.
Uzdemir was looking good in this fight, and Ulberg was just better. So that was a fun fight. Like, and that was one of the worst ones of the night, and it was still a good fight. So you might
So
you might be into something with the card of the year thing, because
yeah.
the only bad, like straight up bad fight here was that Ju Sung Young against
Yes.
Bergen Gelisi. That one
Yeah.
sucked. That one was bad.
That was not on the level.
But the other ones was everything was fine, man.
The Zhang Ming Yang elbow. That's like a
Oh
fun light heavyweight
yeah,
edition.
yeah. This.
And Shi Ming with the head kick, the doctor lady.
Oh yeah. That fight was not very good,
That was
but
brutal.
had the fun, had the crazy knockout. Yeah, and that Xiao Long against Kwang Li knockout was crazy too. Like it wasn't. It was a violent fight. Nicolas
He
Mota.
had multiple KO.
Nicolas
Sorry.
Mota hurt
Yeah.
Maheshate every round. It was crazy shit.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. My guy Mata, baby. Training at my two gym is Bang Town Extreme Couture.
Okay, dude.
Which is, but like I said, like I wrote when I wrote up on my Substack for that fight, I was like, listen, I know he's not I'm not saying this guy's gonna be like the next top 5 or top 10 fighter, but like for all of Nicolas Mata's faults, what better gyms to go to than a Muay Thai gym for some range game, and then a cage wrestling MMA gym like Extreme
Yeah.
Couture? Like that's like the perfect gyms for him for his deficiencies.
and
And
the
he's looking
improvements,
better.
the improvements are there. Yeah, mechanically especially, he
Yeah.
looked like cleaner than ever.
Yep.
So we go to attempt number 2 to get rid of Pantoja now, and it's UFC 310. Man, Pantoja just styling on Kaya Sakura here. Fantastic performance.
bringing
Gotta-
in
I've been
the things we
very,
were talking about.
even though Pantoja is like my boy, I've been very critical of his striking into his title reign. But here it looked like prime Pantoja on the feet. Like he's wild, but he's very smart with the short selection when he puts his mind into it. And this one was one of those performances. Because he was like using the stomp kicks to stop the forward
Yeah.
momentum. He was punishing the exits with the body kicks and the leg kicks. He was like using a smart use of his double right hand, because the double right hand, a lot of people see as this sloppy technique, but when you use it smartly, it is a great tool. And
His posture is really good too. I know that translates into poor head movement, but you look at his posture, like he's not getting hit with a lot of knees or head kicks.
Yeah.
Despite his size and stature and all the level changes that are inherent to his style, is really good. He's always on balance and keeps, again, it makes for kind of bad head movement, but as far as staying on balance, not dipping into stuff,
and
being
allows
able
you
to
allows you to
yes.
take shots because he sees
Yes.
shots coming. Yeah.
Yep. And he's a good clinch fighter, so he can go directly head into the chest and close distance and still strike or power through for takedowns. He really understands his distance and the function of it. And you picked up on this too, Fenyo, as well, because you cited me where after the Usyk fight, you said was I made a note. I said, when they're talking about, oh, Usyk's got really good knees and elbows. I said, I think the elbows are more to watch out for. I wouldn't worry as much about the knees because Pantoja, he dictates a lot of the knee traffic in his fights.
Yeah.
And being able to do that against a giant flyweight against Usyk, I was like, okay, even though the knees are dangerous of Asakura and he's just as big, if not bigger, than Usyk, I was like, I'm not really too worried about those. And I think one kind of came close, but like it hit his shoulder more and he parlayed it to a takedown.
Yeah, the one that sounded like very loud on the replay, he was like all thigh here, so it wasn't like very damaging. So it was like for Pantoja's point of view, that was like a free takedown for him. So
yeah, and because he's not posturing, his posture is always kind of like he's not like being lazy with it, right? And he as far as that goes, he didn't really give that knee too much.
Yeah, especially because if you for all the like sloppy striking that Pantoja does, when he changes level for the double leg, all legs, he doesn't bend here.
Yes.
He goes like super low with his legs, so he's not like deep into the knees. He's like keeping a strong chest here, so he stays in a very strong posture for absorbing those knee strikes.
Yeah, and he's already like getting around to a corner too then. Or whipping you back
Yeah,
out. But
exactly, yeah. Co-main event was Rachmanov versus Machado Gary, and they had like a strangely slow fight. And it was weird because it was like classic like low volume Gary fight, but at the end of the day, I feel like Gary converted a lot of guys into like siding with him in this one.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, Rachmanov is like the god of violence and shit. And at the end of the day, we were kind of rooting for Gary in this one, I feel.
Yeah, I do think my read was accurate though, as far as like the slow Gary fights. It's because it's whenever he fights a fighter who can actually counter.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It seems like it's coming with a level step, but it's not just a level step. It's like, well, these are guys who can actually counter strike. Jeff Neal, Michael Page, obviously, and Rachmanov as well. He's more of an opportunist, but yeah, he's still a countering opportunist. But yeah, that seems to really slow up his game. I think we could be sure of that at least, even with his improvements.
Yeah, but that was a solid performance. I mean, not a solid performance, but Gary showed some like dangerous moments and started like making some reads. So that was good for Gary, especially because this was like his prospect loss, and it came against a very good fighter. And now we have to wait for Rachmanov versus Belal, which is like a cool fight, right?
Yeah. I'm curious your thoughts on the next fight. Yeah.
Okay, so Cyril Gane had a rematch against Alexander Volkov. I was expecting it to look like pretty much exactly like the first fight, and I was wrong. Part of it, gotta say, it came because Gane broke like 3 of his toes on one of the very first kicks that he threw, and it impacted his mobility. You can tell. I thought that he was maybe like looking old or something, but when you consider the injury, it makes a lot more sense. Because like Gane was not moving like his usual self inside the cage. I feel like this decision was bad. It was like very clearly wrong. I felt like Volkov won this one, but not the worst of the year, I would say. Like there were moments that make it like kinda fuzzy. You understand what I mean? Like I do not agree with the Gane decision, but I can see maybe from the judge's perspective, like maybe a submission attempt looked like closer, or some of the shots that landed. So because it was low volume either way, like it's not like Volkov was winning like super widely either.
True, yeah. I rewatched it though. This was another one where I was like, "Is this just my bias? Were we emotional in the moment?" Because I did pick, and it wasn't a big bet because again, it wasn't confident. It's heavyweight MMA. We saw the fight once already, but again, Gane makes stupid freaking decisions, and rematches never go the same way in MMA. Seldom,
very
right?
bad decisions, man.
So for me, Volkov got the 3-1 underdog. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous at heavyweight MMA. That big of a spread. That means Gane's like minus 400 in that area, right? So I was like, no way I can't take a shot on Volkov. And perhaps favorable, perhaps with Gon injury. Perhaps I was right with Volkov doing better, but I was still wrong because Volkov still lost. And I will say Volkov was injured too. That this fight was rebooked. It was supposed to happen in 3 weeks, but Volkov had a knee injury. It's like, what kind of knee
Yeah,
injury gets rebooked after 3 weeks, right?
yeah, very
So you're
weird. Yeah,
like, he's not. It's heartbreaking for Volkov. Like, you got to do some rematch. That this one, to be fair, makes more sense than other rematches, right? It sucks to do again, but given what's at heavyweight, it's like, what else are you gonna do? And he comes rolling in there with these knee sleeves, and the dude's powering through it. He's shooting the takedowns that he should have taken. He's returning to his kicking game. He's doing the southpaw double attack, but from orthodox, where he's just playing. He's going body head with counterbalancing crosses all day on Gon, who's taking the southpaw stance, and he is outpointing him. And again, anytime where they're like, "Oh, Volkov was rocked" or whatever, people were like, "Oh." Volkov rock Gon, and then the Gon side will be like, well, Gon rock Volkov. And I'm like, yeah, the difference is that we don't really know either fighter was rocked, except when Gon was rocked, he went backwards and then
yeah,
succeeded a takedown.
yeah.
Whereas when Volkov was rocked, Volkov answered by rocking Gon and going into the takedown that I just cited. Back to who won the exchange. Back to what Fenyo said, who got the last word.
Yeah.
And even though I agree begrudgingly, but it's like, oh, now you want to credit body work when it's William fucking Gomes. This is the same thing. It's like, well, now it's the same camp. Go figure, right?
Yeah.
Now you want to credit submission attempts when it's Cyril Gone. And here's his 2 submission attempts. He ends round 1, which I'm guessing won him the round because it's at the end of the round, even though you're not supposed to steal the round. But he finishes into the guillotine. But the thing is, even though he's got the guillotine for a bit, it's not like John Lineker or Corey Sandhagen where he's holding on to it for a minute and there's blood gushing out of Corey's nose, even though Corey is giving the
No,
thumbs up,
I
right?
don't think it was like long enough to determine how close it was. To be honest,
Right. And well, also his back was flat though. He had no leverage to choke any further. And not only that, the reason why you could see that he had no leverage is because dumbass fucking it's crunch the guillotine. Do not lean back like this. This is how the head pops out, folks. So even if he had the leverage to go, which he didn't, even if he had the proportional back positioning, which leads to your hip positioning, which he didn't, he used all those poor foundations to exercise the wrong fucking technique. Oh, and what was his second submission attempt? I'll tell you because the commentary tells you. It's a Von Flu. It was a reverse to a Volkov guillotine after one of the times where he rocked Gon and he gets him into like a guillotine catch and then it's poor and Gon takes him down off it, right? And then Gon goes to a Von Flu and like, wow, if Volkov doesn't let go, he's going to be in the Von Flu.
but
And
he was
Gon
not
passes.
in the yeah.
Well, the ironic part is whether he had it or not is that when he actually has the most leverage with it is when he lets it go.
Yeah,
And then regardless of how close he was or wasn't, or how much we can justify for that was the smart move of Gon letting it go because he didn't want to burn out his arms. Well, how do you justify that not only that after you pass guard, letting go, not only that after you've gotten to the most powerful point of the submission where your weight is actually crunched on, where you can really start trying to grind into that Von Flu, you let go. But he lets go of dominant position total. He fucking stands up.
Yep.
Instead of staying on top and securing, I mean, just poor IQ.
No, yes.
After poor IQ. How effective was that choke when motherfucker, not only was he not confident enough to hold said choke, he wasn't even confident enough to be on the ground.
No.
This motherfucker, for all the showing, I'm shooting wrestling shots on my IG after the John Jones fight, like he is still uncomfortable to be on the ground. When he's in dominant positions, almost locking in the fight, crucial points of the round, all the incentive in the world, all the experience at this point of your career in the world, you don't know what the fuck to do, and we're going to reward that shit?
No, yeah, I agree with that.
It's really annoying. It's like, yes, we should be awarding submission catches more, but this is the submission catch we're fucking rewarding?
Yeah, it's the consistency. Yeah.
You know, and again, like even Gon himself walks out in disgust with the decision. The corner was like, and John Anik's like going like his whole corner is letting you know on the broadcast is in shock right now. Dana White for whatever that everybody, right? Like, I mean, it wasn't the worst decision of the year, but for me, for that, it's top 5 for sure, and it could even be top 3. I could even see a top 3 argument for that one, but it would be like it would barely be number 3 if it got it. That's just for me. That's
No,
just
but
for
yeah,
me.
it makes sense, to be honest. Like, and it speaks a lot. Like, you can tell that, I don't know if they told him, but like Gunn wanted to make you understand that he felt that he didn't win, but he didn't really wanted to say it, but it was very
Yeah,
clear, yeah. But I feel
yeah.
like
So you just feel
but I feel like
feel
Gunn,
for Volkov too. It's like, oh
yeah, I feel
shit,
for
this point in
Volkov.
his career.
I feel
Because
like Gunn was a good sport about it, but yeah, I mean, he did not deserve that decision.
yeah, because it wasn't for a belt like the Pena, like the Pena Pennington one's worse, right? Because it's for a belt too,
It's
right? You
worse
know what I'm
because
saying? Like
it
that
is
was
for a belt,
right.
yeah, and it's
But
like it's sketchy because like you can tell that the UFC likes Pena more, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. But like at this one, even though it wasn't for a belt, like context wise, is really important for Volkov. You look at me, he's not old, but he's not young at all, and like
No, and
is a
the division is
this
so
was an
shallow
important
that
parts of his career, you know.
the losses set you back, man. And
Yeah,
and I was to be honest, I was very disappointed with Gunn because I feel like Gunn has everything to be an actual good
oh
guy,
yeah,
and he just doesn't put it together, man. And
yeah. I mean, forget about robberies and stuff. Just his what he showed in that fight was disappointing. To your
yeah,
point.
yeah, it was, yeah, and especially because like you see that like double leg, that sick double leg that he hit on the first round.
Yeah,
It's like if you
just to
train
go for a leg lock again.
if you train that shit, if you actually train on the gym, you would be so good, man.
Or like his elbows, and then use that for ground and pound at heavyweight. Holy shit!
Yeah, I mean,
Like
and it seems like
someone needs to tell him.
and it
If you're a
seems
good
like he's
clinch striker, you're a good
regressing.
ground and pounder.
It seems like he's regressing already because like on the first
Yeah.
fight, the clinch was not even close. The clinch was Gans. And it was crazy to see Volkov being dominated inside the clinch by a smaller guy like Gan.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
none of that showed up in this fight. Obviously Volkov has improved, but at the same time I feel like Gan's head is not in there anymore, I feel. And
No,
it
it's
makes me
same
sad
mistakes,
because a
making
lot
the
of
same mistakes.
it makes me sad because a lot of people like hate on Gan, but I always like the potential. But it's like it sucks that it's not going to be fulfilled, especially because like we know that the MMA factory is not a great place to train it.
That's why I love heavyweight, because like some of the best heavyweights are like fat bald dudes, you know,
Yeah, yeah, because they actually
like
try.
undersized fat bald guys. You know, like Fedor, Randy, Cain Velasquez, like it's like a bunch of chubby, undersized bald dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like those are the best heavyweights. Like it's a real like eye test fuck with you division where like everybody thinks like, oh, this guy played football, or like this guy looks like Cyril Gahn, and they think they're gonna be like they're gonna walk through everybody, right?
Yeah,
Like, oh, what? This guy used to play athletics and he looks like a unit. Like you don't understand. It's not about that. This is different. This is different.
yeah. Moving on from that, Bryce Mitchell and Kron Gracie almost had the worst fight of the year, but then Bryce Mitchell, by the power of Jesus Christ, he slams and knocks out Kron Gracie. And for as bad as that fight was, that knockout was crazy, man.
You know, what it reminded me of was it? I was gonna tweet this, but I haven't been active on socials. But it reminded me of that WEC knockout, or maybe it was UFC. It was Ken Stone got knocked out by, was it Eddie Wineland?
Yeah, I talked about during my live reaction that it was like
You did?
yeah, because it
Eric
was
Perez,
like
Eric
was
Perez.
the forearm across the jaw when on the moment of the slam, just like the Eddie Wineland knockout. Yeah,
Was it Eddie Wineland or Eric Perez? I don't know.
Uh,
No, Eric Perez got him with punches. It was it was Eddie Wineland.
it was Eddie Wineland,
Yeah.
yeah, for the title, I think, and it was like, but yeah, it was crazy. And I had a great reaction not only from the knockout, but also when Bryce Mitchell turned on Trump at the end of the interview when he says like,
What?
only one man can make America great again, and that's Jesus Christ. He's
Oh my god! I didn't catch that. That's great. I'll probably black out of his post fights, but yeah, that's hilarious.
Du Hochoi had one of the performances of the year against my boy Nate Landwehr, man.
Jesus, yeah, no, base Nate Landwehr. the woke king.
The
You
Woke
said
King,
a woke
man.
king. Yes.
No, but
Uh,
I felt like Nate had some good ideas late into the fight, but he took too much damage early and he couldn't recover, man.
no. Yeah. Well, Choi again. It was like this is what we expected. Kind of like what we said. Charles Johnson just like Choi even later. Kind of like okay, this is what we were expecting from Choi to eventually
Yeah, yeah, he looks
evolve
so good,
back in the day.
and that grappling under the Korean Zombie is coming along greatly, man. He's looking so strong in every phase. So do Hoshoui for real, man. Dominic Reyes had a very
He's back.
depressing fight against Anthony Smith. To be honest, like both guys look
Crash
so
Bandicoot.
shot in this one, and
Crash Bandicoot just
yeah.
had to kill him, man. Put
uh,
someone out of his misery.
Talking about shot but not looking shot, Vicente Luque just killed Temba Gorimbo, and this was like Christmas part 2 for me, man.
They should have had a. I'm sorry. They should have. Someone should have done a cover of the book Old Yeller, but put Anthony Smith and then Dominic Reyes as Crash Bandicoot. And if you know, Old Yeller is a piece of American literature they make us all read out here, Fenyo, about someone who has to kill their old golden retriever.
Oh my god.
It's depressing, but it's very accurate.
And then Anthony Smith saying the craziest shit in the after the fight that, oh man, I didn't feel like Dominic Reyes was any good in there. So if I'm not beating that guy, that means I suck.
Oh, it's rough, man. It's
Yeah,
rough.
that's crazy self reflection
going
to
through it.
say, man. Yeah, but Vicente Luque
How about
just
you?
killed Temba Gorimbo, man. That was insane.
Yeah, yeah. We were alluding to this one where it made me look completely stupid again in my. That's why I almost kind of hate doing the panel shows with the takes and stuff because I won't even try to do a hot take, but sometimes I'll just let something go and I'm like I'm gonna eat that one. I think one time I said I'm not saying it'd be like much farther than number 14 or 15, but I think like a couple of years ago I made the argument. I'm like he's not fully progressed yet, but I could see Brendan Loughnane ending up being like a top 15. I could see him being able to compete with the top 15. I said, and yeah, I still don't think that's aged very well because I think he went out to lose. He had like a big winning streak and then he went out and lost a random fight. I forget, and then I think he's bounced back since roughly, but like I was like, yeah, that was not a good take there.
What else happened in this card?
Featherweight's just fucking good too.
Oh, Ivloyev and Sterling made Dana White eat shit because he buried them on the prelims for being boring, and they have a fucking amazing fight. The best grappling fight of the year, I would say. It was great.
And by the way, like this, like I both loved and hated this because this culminated both like. I'm not trying to pat myself on the fucking back or whatever, but I do feel like more people were talking about card formats this year. And not only that, Fenyo, more people were noticing a lot of things I complain about, which is how fucking bad they've been, right? Even when they do good matchmaking, and even when they do have cards that could pass, they shoot themselves in the foot and make these fucking bullshit middleweight Jay Giles fucking fake jank middle whatever weight fights, like their opening fight, right? Like, what are you doing? And granted, they had Duho Choi and Nate Landwehr featherweights, granted. So it's not like they didn't put featherweights in the opening spot, but you're like, yeah, why are you doing that? And then contrastly, you had like people in the media like doing the opposite, going like their thing was like they didn't understand it, so what you don't understand you have to hate on, right? So they were like, who are these losers with no lives to like actually care about the card format? Are we? Was this something we're supposed to care about with this Aljo?
Of course
this
it matters,
news
man.
to me. Like, did you see those takes too? Like that it was stirring up. Like, oh, you motherfuckers! Like, you don't think that the fucking format, the pacing of the entertainment product matters? The fuck's wrong with you guys? Like,
no, that's insane, man.
Yeah.
What else? Randy Brown looked like $1,000,000 during that first round against Brian Battle, and then decided to try to clinch with a guy that showed up like 10 pounds overweight. I lost the fight. It was very frustrating.
This was weird. This fight and the fight right after this, it was one fighter like looking great in round 1 and then taking a complete dump in round 2.
Yeah, it was exactly that. Eric Anders just hosed Chris Weidman, man. Oh,
Awful, awful. God damn it, Chris Weidman. What are you doing? You know, it was bad because even Ray Longo was being asked about what happened by John Anik on the podcast. Like, what happened in between there, right? And you know it's bad when your own corner, especially a guy like Longo, who's been in there and he's as close as Weidman as he is, goes, I don't fucking know. You got to ask him.
oh my god.
Like pretty much like, and John Anik's like, well, I'm just wondering, was there an injury? Or was it maybe not something? Like he's trying to politely say, like, did he fucking mentally shit the bed? You know, and he's like, yeah, well, it wasn't physical. You know.
oh my god.
And I'm like, holy shit! Like he's like Dennis Hopper from Speed, like helping throwing the guy under the bus. You know, like blowing the. But yeah, it was a really just like, which made the Bruno Silva robbery even worse because you were like, Weidman had no business being in there. Fuck that he air quotes won his last fight before this against Bruno Silva. This guy had this fight with Eric Anders proved he had no fucking business coming back.
No business, man. Yep. Shout out to Joshua Ban for yet another appearance. I've been very vocal about saying I don't think Joshua Ban should fight as often as he does, but every time.
Me too.
But every time he does, he's fucking dynamite, man.
I felt stupid for picking against him here, but I felt less stupid knowing, I don't know if you did, but you had the same reasoning for my pick where you were like, listen, I'm a Joshua Van too. We're all Joshua Van guys, but like you can't, we've seen this a billion times in the UFC, you can't keep taking fights at this pace. It's going to burn you.
Yeah.
It's going to burn you. And as much as I like him, he's not like going full Cyril Gane out there, but he will shoot some nice takedowns and then counteract his work with a leg lock. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know.
Yeah.
So I was expecting it to kind of catch up to him, and it didn't. And he looked great.
Yeah, he looked great. And then we get to the last event of the year. It was Joaquin Buckley against Colby Covington for some fucking reason. Who knows? It was fun. It was fun to see Colby Covington getting his ass kicked. But at the same time, it sucked that it was a TKO stoppage because Colby Covington is going to take advantage of that to talk stupid shit about it. On a more positive note, the co-main event, Cub Swanson with the fantastic knockout on that third round against Billy Q.
What's his late career, Cub?
Oh my god, Cub Swanson, man, the fucking man. I love that guy.
Yeah. He's the man.
Manel Cap looking great against Bruno Silva. The finish kinda weird though. Maybe low. Who knows? But
yeah. Unfortunate.
Talking about unexpected, Dustin Jacoby was having a stinker against Vitor Petrino.
Yes.
And decided to murder him. That was a fantastic knockout,
nice.
Man. Yeah, that was
made me happy for Jacoby.
Yeah, Jacoby really needed that one, man. And against a prospect like Petrino, it was.
All his losses are against southpaws, and people are failing to see. It's like, no, he just sucks against southpaws. It's not that he sucks. I know he wasn't looking great before the knockout, but I'm just saying, like,
but
it was a deceptive record, deceptive.
He needed this one for the confidence. Daniel Marcos and Janius had a great fight.
What a dog fight, yeah.
Yeah, Janius. I feel like both guys were very tired at the third round, so that led to the very bad decision making by both guys. So I don't blame them too hard. But it was a good fight, man. Navajo Sterling, great debut, even though he didn't get the finish that you needed, but great debut by the guy for like heavyweight, very interesting new guy. And yeah, that was Oh yeah, that was
Michael
great.
Johnson
Michael Johnson, man.
Holy shit. What's in the box? And then I enjoyed the Sean Woodson Fernando Padilla fight. That's what I was saying.
Oh yeah.
Now I can't think of the other guy's name.
Oh man.
Manuel Torres.
Sean Woodson, Padilla was stumbling backwards and Sean Woodson like catching with a tight right hook from southpaw. Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, he's got a good winning streak too. He was another under the radar guy that was among my considerations. Yeah,
for sure. And Felipe Lima, man. Great addition to the UFC. Fantastic fighter. Oh, and Davey Grant with yet another great old guy performance, man. Dangerous Davey Grant. The Yankee Van.
What we say? He was the honorary Jankweight. I think I asked some question on your things where it was like, how would he do at like light heavyweight or something? And you know what? That's kind of a fun game. Like, how far would Davy Grant? I think he'd be in the top 10 without looking right now. If you put Davy Grant in a light heavyweight body with his same game, but you put him against light heavyweights with their skills, how far? It's more of a game to like just shit on light heavyweights, basically. But how far would Davy Grant go?
He'll go.
Where do you put him? Seriously, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, if the Shin were to hold up, like he would win like against a bunch of guys. He like I have no problem admitting like David Grant is a more skilled fighter than Jan Blachowicz, and I like Jan, like but like David Grant, man.
Like you know, if Volkan Ozdemir doesn't knock out Davy Grant in the first round,
Oh
Volkan's
no,
gonna start
yeah.
having that look on his face where he's like, "Oh, what's going on?
Yeah,
why is he
exactly.
coming?"
Oh my god, yes. So yeah, to close some things off, let's just give some awards. Some awards. So fight of the year. I think I gotta go with Saul Hoover versus Ribovics, to be honest. What about you?
Yeah, I can't think of anything better, and since that's what I voted in the MMA Junkie things for, I don't know when it's going to be released or what wins, but that's what I voted for. So I'm going to go Zoe Hooper Rivovic as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Even if that means I'm double dipping on round of the year. By the way, I'll do it. I'll
Okay,
do it.
okay. Um, honorable mentions. I would say Poirier versus Makhachev was great.
Mm-hmm.
Topuria versus Holloway was great too.
Yep.
I would say those two are my runner-ups. Do you have another shout?
Jan Figueiredo, obviously.
Oh yeah, Jan Figueiredo for sure. Jan Figueiredo. Was Bam versus Johnson this year? I don't remember from the recap, but oh my god, I'm lagging here. But yeah, Jan Figueiredo is a
What's
great.
that?
Jan Figueiredo was a great shout, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Joshua Van versus Charles Johnson was this year. That's one that I feel it's kind of underrated.
That was a really good fight. Yeah, that was.
That one was good. Let me check a list to see. Here in Topology there are a list of fights by the fans, and like Oralby versus Rambetsky is in there. That was great. That's a good shout out.
And then Sickos voted for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I get it. I get it. It's crazy. I know. Fucking Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I feel Shiros versus Van, man. Joshua Van always there.
Yeah, Chires and Joshua Van, that was a really good one. Really good fight.
Yeah, that was.
I might actually like that one more on the fight, to be honest. But
Okay, yeah, that was very good. One that is very underrated, in my opinion, was CD versus Taveras. That fight was fun, man.
yeah, that was bloody fun.
Okay, so a round of the year. Then we spoiled already, but there's in that case there's no competition, right? Round 3.
Yeah.
So Hoover versus Ribovics was insanity, man. The only thing that you could argue it would be like Holloway versus KG round 5.
Yep. Or I'm trying to think. One of the rounds in Prochazka versus Rakic.
Oh, that was
back and forth.
That was insane too. Yeah.
Not that I was saying it would beat it, but it had a good round. It had a really fun round, momentum swing round in there, I believe. So
Yeah. So fighter of the year, I already said, it's Ilia Topuria for me. No questions asked.
I want to dissent, but like I already picked him for my fighter of the year too. So I can't dissent that. Yeah, I'm with you.
Honorable mention, I would hot take here. I would put Pantoja over Poatan, to be honest.
You know, I don't hate that. I wouldn't rate him high, but just because he's got the most wins in the UFC, you got to give at least a shout to Joaquin Buckley. But I mean, obviously, I wouldn't. I don't rate that winning streak very high. I know you don't either, but
Yeah,
I do want to give him a shout for having the most UFC wins in a year where it's really hard to get that many.
yeah,
Like Max Holloway and Magny did it in 2014 and 2015, and then we haven't seen anybody do the five since.
yeah. No, I mean, there's something impressive about that consistency, even though the wins do not look like super consistent. But
No, especially if you know what you're. Well, yeah.
but he's making it, even if the level of opposition has like some asterisk next to them. But I still yeah, you gotta give Buckley some praise just for keeping it together, right?
Yeah, it's tough.
Underrated fighters. We know you vote for the Cream Machine, right?
So much cream, man. I'm not a fan, but like, again, that's another. It's like similar with John. It's the same setup with Jonathan Martinez, right? Where he qualifies whether you like him or not, as far as like being an underrated winning streak, right? He's right now he's tied for third or fourth for all time KO winning streaks, right? With like Conor McGregor and other big names, and he's set up to face number 15 ranked currently, which again we'll get him into the rankings. I know ranking schmankings, we do the jerk off shift to that, but for what it's worth, again he's got that setup fight to face Edson Barbosa, so very similar to when I gave it to Jonathan Martinez, and he had the setup fight to face Aldo. Obviously, we talked about Martinez had a really bad year. I'll feel less bad if that happens to Cream Machine because I'm not the biggest fan, but I got to give credit where credit's due. So, there's a lot of featherweight because there's so much high profile at the top that there's naturally underrated fighters like Sean Woodson and stuff, and
Okay.
others. Ribovic, it's one of our boys. Me and Fenyo, we'll always throw a Ribovic shout in there, but it also was tough. I think he only had 2 fights this year or one or something,
Yeah.
and the decision, even though it was a good fight and deserved it, but I mean it. Even though we're high on him, we're early. We're probably early to the game, right, Fenyo?
Yeah. We gotta, maybe the next year is the year, right?
Yeah.
And obviously this shouldn't be the case, but I gotta give a shout to Birna Yandirova just because like
Oh yeah.
no one is talking about her and she's putting
Yeah.
on a fantastic win streak. You could argue that she beat Mackenzie Dern too. That is like her loss
Yes.
in recent memory. So way closer
She's
fight.
the Damian Maya.
And
Damian
now
Maya of
she's
the women's division.
and now she's winning with the Lemos fight, right? She's proving that she's like better equipped to deal with that kind of matchup than Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it sucks that
Love me
she's
Hannah
like
Jobs.
yeah, and Jadi like deserves the title shot more than Suarez, to be honest. Like I'm very excited for Suarez versus Zhang Wei Li, but just gotta say that there's a more deserving fighter there. Yeah, event of the year, it gotta be like either like UFC 300 or Yan versus Figueiredo, right? Those are the two.
Yeah. Yeah, I think UFC 300 probably takes it just because of the promotion and this and that. Even though that in the Sphere wasn't what they built it up to be. 300 was more of a successful card, was more of a bigger card on paper in execution. That being said, I feel like, and a lot of it probably does have to do with that nobody was expecting a China card to do well,
Yeah.
or to be great. So a lot of it is that, granted, but really, I mean, there was at least 2 knockout of the year contenders, which is crazy.
Yeah.
On the China
Yeah,
card
for sure.
alone.
That China card was great, and yeah, I mean, UFC Noche was looking to be great, and then the main event and the co-main event ruined it for me.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Noche still has arguably, fight of the year for us and many.
Yeah.
And 300 has knockout of the year for us and many. So they were able to produce good things each, that they could be proud of. But yeah, I agree. Probably 300, but I don't know. I'll low key go UFC Macau, baby. That's
Okay.
That's where
Yeah,
that's where my
a
vote's
cool.
gonna go.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, how
shout.
can I not write if I didn't give Figueiredo and Jan fight of the year? How can I not at least give that an event of the year, right? I mean, I was waiting for that event for so long, and then it comes with an amazing card. Like, come on, how can I not? And I actually stayed up for it, which I wasn't planning to, but it was so good. I was like, fuck, I kept staying up.
Yeah, I mean it was not giving you a reason to go to sleep, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Um, so knockout of the year, we already both said it's Holloway versus Gaethje, right? It's like
Yeah.
just the most
We're both against.
electrifying shit.
Yeah, we're both against it being even in the mentions for fight of the year, but we're both very much for it being the knockout of
Yeah,
the year,
no,
right?
that knockout was surreal.
Yeah.
Mentions. Obviously, I already said Topuria versus Holloway. As sad as it
Sure,
is, that was
absolutely.
a great,
Huge one.
great fucking knockout. Shara Bullet. I gotta give the shout out to Shara Bullet, man. That
Yep.
that
Yeah, we
knockout
had
was that
double
knockout
back
was great.
fists.
Mostly in Salikov, the spinning hook kick. That was great
Spinning hook
too.
kick. Yep. The Shi Ming almost, it was a brutal one again, but it was as far as the longest like someone's been out. That was right up there with I don't know if no it wasn't Chile, but it was a Chilean guy, Diego Rivas. Remember him? They tried to pump him up for a little bit,
Oh yeah,
and he never
the
really
yeah,
he had cancer.
the spinning the jumping kick against Noad Lahat.
Yeah, yes, yeah. It was at the Stephen Thompson versus. I remember I went like almost perfect in picks that night. It was the Stephen Thompson Johnny Hendricks card. I was there live for it,
Yeah,
so I got to see the how because on production you can't tell they go off camera because I
yeah.
rewatched it on production and it was super scary. It was one of the scariest ones I've seen
Oh
live.
yeah, that
I
was
was way up
crazy.
high, so it's not like I saw or heard it so much, even though we actually did hear it from our seats. But it was more just I've never seen someone down until that Shi Ming knockout on the China knockout, that head kick. That,
Oh
that
yeah,
that that girl she knocked out was down for way
that
long.
was bad, man. Yeah, that knockout was bad. So yeah, submission. Why are you going with the submission of the year?
Submission's tough, man. What did I ended up voting? So I ended up voting Makachev versus Poirier off of the selection they gave,
Okay,
but
yeah, that one was exciting. I mean, it was heartbreaking for me, but it was like because you can tell like even though it was very clear that if they went to decision, it was going Makachev way. But you can tell that before the knockout, like Dustin was having a bit of a round, and man, like Dustin Porter late into a fight, he's dangerous, but it's Makachev like closing the deal. It was like, and the setup was very cool too. So I support that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then when we talked about a fight earlier where we the person that we didn't see getting the submission got it, and those are always big ones, like when a submission guy gets tapped by something.
Oh yeah,
I'm trying to
those.
think of who it was we're talking about.
I don't remember. Yeah, those are cool too.
Again, it wouldn't win, but we both were really impressed with the Pat Sabatini RNC over
Oh
Jonathan
yeah,
Pierce. I feel like that's like a mention worthy though.
yeah, that
He
one
wouldn't
was
win, but
good.
mention worthy.
Yeah, that one was solid. That one was good.
Just
And
all skill, all skill.
yeah,
Just
Jandiroa versus Lemos again. I mean, I know Lemos is not like a super high level grappler, but the setup was very cool, and it
hmm
was accompanied by a very solid
That
performance.
was
So
good.
yeah, and I think that's everything, right? So just any what would you like to see in 2025 before we leave?
Man, just a better year than 2024, man. Like I try to like part of me was like again, am I misremembering it? Am I emotional because like it was like as far as like picks and silly shit like that for me, does that taint my view of it, right? But honestly, Fenyo, you tell me how off base I am. Not to be a downer, but I look back on 2024. I think it was one of the worst years, man, as far as like the card structures, the pay per views. Like even just looking at the pay per views alone, like I feel like the pay per views really under delivered. Like there really wasn't very many good pay per views.
Yeah, I
Um,
felt like the matchmaking was mostly fine, but the so many pay-per-views were filled with like non-relevant fights with like unnecessary rematches. It was like yeah, it was
yeah,
like
like I mean,
in a vacuum it
three
was
ninety
fine,
nine
but
or 299 and 298, I think had like really good cards on paper and were pretty decent in practice. Early in the year. But really, you think about it, like yeah, UFC 300 may have won event of the year for us and many, but most of the in the running were fight nights.
yeah,
The Sphere card, the China card, like a lot of the cards you talk about aren't even the pay-per-views, which is usually not the case. Usually we're picking between pay-per-views. And the fight nights really have to be good to even get mentioned.
And
Whereas
to
this
be
year it
honest,
was fucking
and it doesn't look too promising because the UFC keeps bloating their roster with contender series guys, and even the guys that are losing are getting contracts now. So they're not.
and then like the Sirius City and remote. I know that was a weird one, but like they're even rematching these fuckers. Like, god damn, man. like like it's not even like we're getting fresh blood. They're still doing like fucking rematches up the ass. Like,
Yeah, no, the rematch
we
were
get
very weird, right? Like especially
right
like
because
main event between Tibur and Spivak, putting like Volkov and Gan on a pay per view. Like, yeah, they gotta step it up, man.
right, or we're running rematches of like I think there was two examples of women's fights where they fought in Invicta, and like even like the commentators and stuff like aren't even like you tell they didn't do their tape because they're not even mentioning the first time they fought,
Yep.
you know. But they're like rematching these women who aren't even like veteran women who are on the fucking prelims, right? Or they're rematching these so it's not even just the top the division or the veterans. It's like dude, no one's safe from rematches, man. And I I'm still waiting for everyone to catch on to that
There
trend
were
and like
so
get as
many.
sick of it as I am.
They're not even like even from a like even though for example I like the Ultimate fights, but from a promotional standpoint, like what are you getting from a rematch between Nico Price and Alex Morono?
Yeah,
Like why? Like
it does.
just use them for another stuff. Like
Yeah, like I think Brendan Allen and Fluffy's going to be a main event, and that matchup, makes more sense than a lot of other
yeah,
matchups they
the
put
other one
together.
was like a long time ago.
But
Both guys are like different
right,
fighters now. That makes sense.
but watch is going to be the same thing. Watch how many people don't even mention the first fight
I know they
because
not.
it wasn't in the UFC
Yeah,
or
they're just
it
gonna
was
pretend
early.
that this is the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just yeah. I don't know, but am I off base or was it not as bad of a year or was it the same as the other years or what do you think, Fenyo?
No, I felt like overall it was like it was a pretty bad year, and the fact that it was like Poatan like carrying so many of these pay per views, and the UFC having to manufacture him like as this pound for pound talent when he's fighting like subpar opposition. Like to be honest, it speaks about the quality of this year. Other than Topuria and Makhachev, to be honest, the quality wasn't that great. To be honest.
And the good fights like we talked about, like for example, what was it, Charles Johnson versus Suma Derji? It was like a lot of these things where it was shitty because they're like same with UFC 300 where on paper and in practice where like on paper obviously UFC 300 was better than most things, but they also got really lucky. Like they got over performances of Poatan, over performances from
Yeah,
Max, right? Like they got really lucky that the fighters showed up, right? Because Dana White was talking so much shit, and he wouldn't have been able to do his media victory lap video if it wasn't for the fighters that they're not taking care of course, right?
yeah, for sure.
So that was kind of the ironic part. It was like they were getting bailed out. So like their good fights came off of like fucking piss poor efforts, whether it was piss poor matchmaking that made no sense in the first place, or like UFC 300 where it was a bunch of fumble matchmaking where it wasn't even the shit they were advertising or aiming for, but they're acting like, oh, we meant to do this all along. We knew it was going to be a success
Yeah,
all
that's
along.
insane.
Like you guys got lucky, man. Like we're gonna give you credit. It's your event of the year, but let's not pretend you guys didn't. That wasn't a fucking dice roll.
It was a huge dice roll. Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
Things that I want to see next year. One of them is like Ankalaev getting a title shot. To be honest, like stop protecting
same.
Poatan. It's getting old for me. To be honest.
Yeah,
Um,
he's good enough. Let him fight.
yep.
He's the champ.
I'm not even saying that Ankalaev is going to win that fight. I'm just saying like I
Yeah,
want to see Poatan fighting actual challengers. Um, I want to see John Jones get the fuck out of the heavyweight division, and if he's not going to fight Tom Aspinall, he can go fuck himself. To be honest.
yeah. That's gonna be funny. That's what I'm waiting for. For the as much as it makes me sick, I'm stoked because the table is set for the Dana White card to flip, where he's like, John Jones is fucking scared. Tom Aspinall's the best.
Yeah, he's gonna do it. He's gonna
He's
do it
gonna, he's gonna
eventually.
go.
That one is going to be
It might
great. To
come
be
this year.
honest,
It could come this year.
it's gonna
It
that
could
one
come
is
this year
going
if
to be
John
great.
Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be the hilarious. That's gonna make all this fucking John Jones glazing we've had to sit through worth it. It's gonna make the Cyril Gahn bullshit performance that fed the fucking glaze machine. It's all gonna be worth it as soon as Dana White just turns coat on him and pretends he never said any of this shit.
Both Francis Ngannou and John Jones are scared of Tom Aspinall.
You know, Bones was the best when he was fighting, but he's not fighting anymore. You know, pound for pound in UFC is for people who aren't scared to fight. What can I tell you?
Oh my god. Another thing that I want to
Shit.
see is I'm actually looking forward to Shavkat versus Bilal. That one's going to be fun, right?
Me too. And although I feel like I'm falling into what could be seen as the casual trap, and I'm not trying to overrate the performance, but at the same time, I'm like, I can't help but go like, yeah, I'm curious where they're gonna have the odds because I feel like Bilal has more of a chance than what it might seem. Right? I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick Bilal, right? But I feel like I totally see that trapping now is set.
Oh
Right?
yeah, I mean, if they put like Bilal plus 300, like oh,
It's gonna move. Yeah, people are gonna bite at it, and then it's gonna go back the other way with all the people going. And again, I know Kamzat is Chechen, but I call all these fighters Dagestani because I'm just making fun of I'm making fun of the ignorant people who like are supposedly their biggest fans but can't get the nationalities right.
they don't even know that Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan are like different countries. They're not like
No,
nations.
but he wears the hat. But he wears. I know his beard isn't as thick, but he's got the hat. It's like it's a different hat. It's different than animals. Different than animal.
Different than animal, man. Oh, okay. I feel like we covered everything, so it was a long one, but it was a fun one. So I'm very glad.
Yeah.
I'm very glad we had to we got
Last thing.
to do this. Yeah, go on.
Last thing though, Jankweight. Jankweight.
Oh,
So,
Jankweight. We need the title,
Luke,
man.
Luke beat Garimbo. Luke beat Garimbo. This is what I meant by like Jankweight's kind of like
Oh, yeah,
it's got like an interim champion because like
Luke
Luke
is
is
not
not janky.
No, Luke is not janky. So, but Gorimbo still loses the title, right?
Yeah, but also because I think that we are right on Luke that he is shot. That it's gonna a janky guy that people think isn't gonna beat him. It's probably gonna fuck him up, right? If they
We
don't
might
get
see.
choked
Yeah.
or,
Okay, so Luke is not jankweight champion, but if he loses to someone janky, he passes off the title. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know what you would call it, like a fucking a liaison or something, like somebody. He's like holding the title for the next champion.
Yeah.
He's like the gate. He's like the gatekeeper of the title. Since there's no one actively that can hold it, because Garimbo fucked it up, which makes you hate Garimbo even more, I'm sure. Since Garimbo fucked it up, Luque now has to hold it until the next janky guy comes in. You know.
By the way, we have a fight with jankweight title implications in the first event of the year because we have
What's that?
Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Carlston Harris.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That one
Hey,
might be
Carlston Harris is
for a
super
number one
janky.
contender, man.
Yeah, Carlston Harris is super janky.
And old
then,
Ponzinibbio is very janky too.
Yeah, I say old Ponzinibbio is now too. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and then we already gave Davy Grant his jankweight honors by proving that he would actually be a Davy Grant would actually be a top 10 fighter at light heavyweight. We've
Easy.
decided
Easy.
top 10. He's a fucking gatekeeper to the top 5. Easy. That's
yeah.
a fun game to play.
Let's-
Take some fucking mid-ass lower weight fighter and then brag about how much people he would fuck up if you put him in a higher weight class.
How much people would murder Victor Henry if he was at the 205?
Oh, Victor Henry would be the new Cain Velasquez if he was heavyweight.
Yeah, easily.
You just be out cardioing these guys. All right. That was good.
Okay, that was very
Chat,
good.
what's up? Ghost, the soldier in there.
Yeah, man.
James got everybody up in here. Rain Lamina. Jimmy Kudo. Dude, great churn out here. Dan Albert.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Dr.
fun. We
Jones.
had a lot of cool people in the chat.
Jones.
We talked about
Yeah.
everything.
Sent
So
Arnett.
if you guys want to listen to this one later, we'll have the recorded version. So enjoy the hostilities, as someone says.
Hey, don't give me infringement.
No, we don't want Robin coming for asses.
Steal. I won't see you. You steal my podcast sign off.
We'll just say the protect your neck just for the old time. So anyway,
Yeah, it's all
guys.
time's sake.
Thank you so much for joining us. Remember that if you want to support the Fight Side as an ongoing project, head over to Patreon. Link in the description. Support my buddy Dan Tom. Link for Twitter in the description. Follow him on Blue Sky, on Twitter, everywhere. And thank you so much for everyone for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed our very lengthy recap of the year. Hope you guys have fun. And as always, protect
Protect
your neck.
your neck.